Welcome to another Superhero Rewind commentary on the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It is I, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin. And tonight we're going to tackle Superman the movie from 1978. And I, of course, have done at least a couple of commentaries on this in the past, but I think some new stuff is going to come up tonight, Austin, that we've maybe not talked about before. In doing some background research, I learned some stuff that I was not previously aware of, which is cool. Not that the whole thing will just be, obviously, like, background tidbits and things, but I don't think it will all be just stuff we've talked about before. But there will be a lot of, we've gushed about this, but it's great. So here we are talking about it again. But Austin, you haven't really weighed in a whole lot on this movie, so it'll be fun talking about it with you.
Yeah, exactly. The most I've weighed in is the list video where I had to defend it being a good movie.
Yeah, I was on a little bit about the ending. Having not watched it in a long time, I was going on, of course, old opinions and old viewings. And as I always say with anything with Rewind in the title, it's about, and anything really, my views, my discussion, it's about the last time I watched the thing. And I had another viewing. I had another watch with it this time, Austin, and I won't reveal which way I'm kind of leaning now, at the risk of looking gigantically wishy-washy, but we will talk about it when we get to that. I do have a little bit of a new read on it. I've still got issues with the choice, and I also feel, I will say, and I'll try not to spend the entire 2 hours and 20 minutes just talking about the ending with the world spinning backwards, but I do feel a little bit vindicated in at least having reservations about it, because in listening to Donner's commentary, which I don't think I'd ever listened to before, I did that today, and he and the writer did a commentary together in 2000 or 2001, and when I say the writer, I mean the guy that didn't get credit for doing all of the writing work. I don't know if you're aware of that, Austin. But they had there was a draft that was too long and too comedic, too campy, that Donner completely threw out when he got on, and then he hired a different guy that Warner's refused to give credit to, so he ended up giving him a consulting credit, so his name was on it somewhere. But the story credit is still Mario Puzo, but he didn't actually write the version that we have.
No, he does that like insane campier one, which is weird because I would have thought that he would have done a darker, or not darker, but I wouldn't have assumed that would be his script.
Yeah, what's his name? The guy that actually wrote it, Mankiewicz, Tom Mankiewicz. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, apparently the original script was 500 pages for the two movies. And so part of the reason it ends up being two movies shot at the same time is because they had so much material. But Donner gets so Warner was going to, like, they greenlit it to film that whole script. Like, that was a shooting script. They were going to shoot 500 pages. And Richard Donner was like, well, it's going to take 5 years. Like, you only need 120 pages for a movie. What are you doing? And so he scrapped it, and the Mankiewicz got no credit. Isn't that nuts?
You win some, you lose some, I guess.
It's absolutely nuts. This is another one of those movies that it's an absolute miracle that it's not a dumpster fire. Like, there's 101,000 things that could have and almost went wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's successes in Hollywood much of the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Richard Donner is up there as like one of the great American directors.
Yeah, like, thank God he got his hands on it. So, Austin, this is a movie that you come to a little late, right? Like, you didn't really grow up with these?
No, I watched these for the first time in COVID.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I watched at least a couple of them with you when you first watched them. Was it just 2 that we did that together with, or was it this 2?
No, it was just 2, because you were like, I have to be there for when you watch the Zod movie.
Yeah, that was exciting. I couldn't remember which one I watched with you.
Mm-hmm. Actually, hold on.
Maybe it was both of them.
Now I'm questioning it because it's been so long. It might have been this one and not 2.
I forget.
I can't remember. It was something.
Yeah, Austin and I used to watch a lot of stuff together off camera. We were kind of becoming friends, and Austin wasn't a regular staple on the channel yet. And I think even after you started doing videos, you weren't on a lot of commentaries and stuff yet. Like, we kind of gradually brought you in to, you know, the big stuff, and now you're here all the time.
Exactly. Now everyone's like, he needs to go away. Like we did Star Trek 2 like that.
Oh yeah, I got to watch that with you for the first time, and Return of Captain Invincible.
Yeah, that's true too.
And Patrick Stewart's Safe House.
Yep. I actually don't think I've ever seen Star Trek 2 just on my own, just watching it. I think I've only seen it watching it with people over a call.
Well, watch it again. It's wonderful. I actually have part of my read with the ending has to do with Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock. So we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but anyway, if you want to watch it with us, we're just going to do the theatrical version tonight. I did a commentary years ago on the extended cut with Oliver Harper, so I do have a commentary with that version, but I think the theatrical cut stands alone really well. I think the extended cut is a little bloated, more and more, and I don't know what I said back when I did that with Oliver, but more and more, I kind of prefer the theatrical version. There are a couple of scenes I wish had been left in, but a lot of it I think is extraneous enough that it is a tighter edit. It is a better movie without most of that. But a couple of things I think they should have left back in, or they should have put back in.
I actually don't know what the difference is. What is like added in the extended edition?
So it's the 2 big things are. There is a scene with Jor-El in the fortress where Jor-El tells Superman he needs to keep a secret identity. And
okay,
which is oddly placed because if memory serves, the Donner commentary I listened to is with that cut, so I did watch that today, with him talking over it, but just here in the moment I can't remember if I don't know if I'm for sure right about this, but I'm pretty sure that scene takes place after he saves Lois with the helicopter. And then he goes to Jor-El, and he's like, why do I have to have a secret identity? And I'm like, well, this doesn't track at all, because why would you be bumbling Clark Kent if you're not planning on having a secret identity? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that's a thing. And then when Superman goes to, and there's a lot of little exchanges here and there. Like there's a couple extra things with Lois and stuff. I think some of the action is maybe longer. There's a couple of extra things in the all the catastrophe at the end, and then the other big thing is Superman when he first goes to Lex's headquarters or his hideout, Lex tests him with a bunch of stuff like fire, and he freezes him, and none of that is in the theatrical cut.
Oh, okay. So I guess I've never seen the extended cut. Oh, okay.
Uh,
Interesting.
it tends to be the more available one these days, I think, or at least for whatever reason, I end up watching it more often than the original. I have this in a few different ways, but right now I'm holding the theatrical Blu-ray. No, I'm sorry. I say theatrical. See, this has the extended cut with Donner's commentary on it, and this is just the kind of bare bones. I say bare bones. I mean, it's got special features and stuff, but this is just the cheap kind of standard Blu-ray. I got this for $6, and it's the extended version. So I think maybe that's just the regular way it's put out much of the time now. And this may have the theatrical version with it, and I just didn't notice. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I have the Blu-ray set and it's got both, but I left that at my mom's like a year ago and I've never gotten it back.
oh, and sorry, the other big thing, and I'll point it out when we get there. But you know about Lois on the train, right?
No.
Okay, I'll wait and talk about that when we get to it.
Okay.
But there's a whole thing in Smallville with that, and that's taken out, which I'm glad is not there. But
Oh, actually, now that you say that, I think I do, where it's like Lois is a kid
yeah,
or a teenager, I guess, on the train. Okay, no, I do know about that now that you say that.
yeah, and I think that's a little hammy, but
Mhm.
a little cute. But we'll talk about it when we get there. I And then Jareth Gerhardt says, "Isn't there also a TV version?" So I can't remember if there are three cuts or not. If the extended cut is even a different version than the longer TV edit. But I know there is a TV edit, and that might actually be the same thing. I'm really not sure. I don't remember here in the moment.
Oh, okay.
Dan's Den claims that the extended cut was just that TV cut. I'm not sure if that's true. He also just took that comment away. So. RJ Godzilla, there's also the booby traps leading up to Lex's lair. That's what I was talking about, where Lex is testing him with fire and ice and stuff. Dan Schneider, $5 super chat. Did you guys hear that what Stan Lee said about this when it came out? He accused it of ripping off the Marvel story formula and story beats. I've never heard that.
I've never heard that either. That's really funny.
That's really interesting. You're getting into Steve Englehart territory at that point.
I mean, no one can out Englehart, but you are getting dangerously close to those waters.
Okay, well, that's a long enough preamble. We've got a good crowd here. Let's go ahead and get into the movie, shall we? Once again, make sure that you are watching the theatrical version. Get it at timestamp 0, unless you're watching it on Max, in which case you'll want to get past the HBO logo, or the Max logo, whatever it is at the beginning. And also, and this is super classy, by the way, Austin. Max right now has an in memoriam for Gene Hackman when you start this movie up, which is kind of cool. So you want to get past that also, but it's just got a picture of him and his dates, and it's in memoriam. And, I thought it was cool that they did that. I've never seen that on a streaming service where they put a card in front of the movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that specifically, but that's the second movie I can think of that does something similar. Because they did for Black Panther on Disney Plus. They took out the Marvel logo and replaced it with that Wakanda Forever one, where it's all Bozeman in the logo. They swapped them out for Disney Plus, which would be like
Yeah,
the closest, I guess, to this kind of a
which
thing.
I guess is cool. I like this better because it doesn't change the movie at all. It just puts up a
Hmm.
card in front.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, I thought that was neat of them. And by the way,
Hmm.
that's the reason that we went ahead and front loaded Superman for this week. I figured we should do something to celebrate the life of Gene Hackman, and I couldn't think of a better way to do that. There are a couple of other actors that have passed recently that I'd love to do something for that I haven't gotten around to, like Tony Todd. And hopefully
Hmm.
I can find time to squeeze something in. Dan Schneider put in another $5 super chat and says he claims they copied all the Marvel plot points, which I guess includes the origin in the first act and how he learns his powers. That's also just like how you make an epic movie. You know, like, okay, if they stole that from Stan Lee, then Stan Lee stole it from like epic poetry and right,
Well, yeah, and I
like
mean
the
that's also just
Bible.
how you do Superman's origin. Like, I don't know. That's really funny.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get past that and go and watch the movie. So once
Yeah.
again, timestamp 0 unless you're watching it on Max. And here we go. Austin, are you set up? Are you ready to go?
Yep, I am good.
All right, here we go, folks. Everybody, please. Oh, and let me say real quick too, because I put up the prompt today for tweet linked reviews kind of late. Well, and late in that I didn't do it until today, like this afternoon. So you've still got a couple hours if you want to get one in. We'll just read whatever's there when we get to it, either on Discord or on Patreon. And if you're not currently a patron but you'd like to do that, the $5 tier, patreon.com/geekvolution, lets you put in a tweet linked review, and I will read your review at the end of the show. You could also always put it in with a $5 super chat if you'd rather do it that way. And we have
Yeah, and we already have a bunch on Discord, so
yeah, and we have one or two on Patreon. But I wanted to make sure that people knew about that because I put it out kind of late today. So, and then the movie that we'll pick for next time will be via Wheelspin, and it's going to probably be another heavy hitter because we're going to pick from my and Austin's top 15 superhero movies on our top 100 list. So strap in and wait to the end because we're gonna probably pick another huge movie for next week. So, and that'll be our 40th show, Austin.
oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Watch it be like Dr. Mordred, which will make me excited, but no one else.
That's gonna be the one that would not be a big giant deal to anybody but us. And I mean I say us because that movie's hilarious, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But anyway, all right, here we go. Time for Superman. Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. So I always like to talk about the opening with this because it kind of doesn't do anything for the movie, like itself. It's really classy to pay homage and respect to the source material like this, and I think in a way it does a great job setting the tone in that it's saying we want to really deliver the source material on the big screen. Like this isn't about coming up with a way of completely reinventing Superman for a modern age and making and like turning into something it's not, so that it can be a regular mainstream picture. We're taking the risk to actually make what is in this comic book, and then it delivers on that, and that's really cool. But having a kid at the beginning go in 1938 in the city of Metropolis, the Daily Planet. It's a little odd because then it's not a period piece. We're not going to be in 1938. And so what you're seeing at the start of this is not in anything but, I guess, the real world. Like,
Well, it reminds me, like, it's very old Hollywood. It reminds me of, like, the beginning of Frankenstein, where the one actor comes out from behind another curtain and he's like, by the way, this movie's scary, so, be warned.
Oh, that's great.
Like, it reminds me of that kind of a thing. But I do like that it's like, this is the roots, and now, we expand out, and here we are at the movie. I do like that as a choice.
No, it's cool.
But
it's like,
I agree that it is strange.
It is a little weird, but overall I like it. It's like, here's this real quaint, like type of entertainment, and now we pull the curtain back literally, and it's seriously the most epic title sequence that had ever been put to screen up to this point. Apart from like maybe Star Wars, but like I think it's on par with Star Wars.
Yeah, and like with that too, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like there's just choices in this movie where it's like this isn't what we would do now, or even like 5 years later. But as like the first like really big superhero film, it's kind of like the only place we would make that as a choice, and that's part of why this movie's interesting too, I think.
Yeah, and I find it super easy to look at this with historical perspective, and obviously this movie's always like lived with me. So there are certainly some things that I look at and they are clearly a little dated, and I go, well, yes, you would only do that in the 70s. But none of that has ever hurt really any aspect of the movie for me, where I never look back on it and go, I kind of wish you could. I mean, I never look at any movie and say I wish you could remake it, but like. It's all part of a piece, you know. Like even "Can You Read My Mind," which is maybe the most 70s thing in the entire movie. I don't know if I'd want the movie without that. There's something about this being in the time and place that it is that I really appreciate. Like I like that it simultaneously is. You know, I always talk about how it's the opposite of Batman '89 in that it's not. It's simultaneously timeless in that it is this character is universal and it understands his principles and what he's all about, and so it's timeless in that way. But it's rooted very much in the time and place that it is, and so like it is set in the 70s, just like straight up. And it's neat that works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I also think that works better for Superman than Batman, perhaps. Although part of me, I was kind of wondering today what like a Richard Donner Batman movie would look like.
I think that's a character he could have done too, but like he was so versatile.
Yeah, exactly.
He would have had a lot
but
of
I was like,
his...
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, is it just like a darker Lethal Weapon? Because I can kind of see that and kind of dig it.
Yeah, that sounds great. You'd have so many more of those bullet ricochet sounds.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna keep saying theatrical. It's nuts how well this movie holds up, and obviously with like flying effects and stuff, it's super impressive for the period, and there are scenes that show now that didn't then because it was so innovative and new and they were creating stuff that had never been done before. But nearly every frame of it I want to watch as large as I can still. Like this is still a movie I want to go to a theater and see on a big screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see this on the big screen.
And that, I think I have. And that opening credits sequence never gets old to me. Like, it should. Like, it's long. In Donner's commentary, he complains about it. He's like, these, he was in, like, 2000. He's like, these days, we always put it at the end. And he goes, that's how it should be.
I mean, fair enough. But
that's so funny.
It's just... And it is epic. Like, it's
exciting. Epic. That's my point. And then Mankiewicz goes... Well, yeah, Dick, but the score. Like that's what really carries it. It feels like going to the orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically an overture with the credits over it,
and it's like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was just the year after this. By the way, how huge was the late 70s in genre movies? I mean, I know that's an obvious point to make, but just, there's kind of like a trifecta or a quadrilogy maybe of movies that you wouldn't have the blockbuster without, and that we cannot, to this day, get away from, like 50 years later.
No, I mean, this is where you get Lucas and Spielberg, who create the like studio blockbuster format.
Yeah. Like what are those movies? It's and then Spielberg, like it's Jaws and it's
Jaws, Star Wars, Superman.
And I mean Close Encounters is in there, but I don't know if that's in the same league.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have thought of that in with them, but and I mean that's obviously Spielberg? A movie people like. Yeah. Offhand, I'm not ringing like another one for like a big blockbuster thing right then, but I'm sure if I like noodled it, I'd probably think of more.
So, it's hard not to make obvious points that everybody talks about with this movie, but one of the things that people are always impressed with this is how is the 3-act thing, and it's interesting because they're not 3 equal acts. Like the majority of the movie is technically the 3 acts if you want to look at it as like the 3 stages of Superman's origin, and you can even look at it as 2 origin short films and then a movie that itself is in 3 acts. I think that's the other way to look at it.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking watching it today, because I've always thought about the 3-act thing with it being an epic, and then I looked at the timestamp and I was like, oh, but
your 3rd act is an hour and a half long.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I guess it's not like we hit that point and it's just 3rd act, like climax. Like it is just a fully formed movie in that section too. And I was like, yeah, it is kind of more of like a vignette film in a way, and that you have 2 short vignettes and then like the movie.
Yeah, you have prologues, but it feels more of a piece than that, because what you're doing with both of Superman's fathers, with Jor-El and then Jonathan Kent respectively, comes back massively into play thematically and character-wise at the very end, and so then it wends back around and it becomes a whole piece, which is really interesting because that's with that that flying back around the world thing that I struggle with a little bit. But if they hadn't done that, then it would have been sort of this lame ending that wouldn't really be about whether or not Superman should change the course of human history, and he would have just literally, this is what it was going to be, Austin. He saves Lois, and then he throws the missile, and it blows up the Phantom Zone, and and Zod and his cronies come out, and that bookends the movie in a really neat way, because if you're thinking about it at all, you look at the start of this, and you go, okay, we sent these villains to the Phantom Zone, and then Krypton blows up, and half an hour later, if you're thinking about the beginning, you're going to be like, so what was about those, what were those 3 villains about? What were we even doing with that? And then you get to the very end of the movie, it's like, oh, that's why. Now you have to watch the sequel before you even know why they were introduced in the first place. And I think it works both ways. And I think ultimately you have a stronger movie, especially for Superman's character, the way it is. Even if I've got issues with the flying back in time business.
No, of course. No, I mean, even with that, I do still think this opening works, and that it's giving us a sense of this world and a sense of, Jor-El taking care of crime on his own planet.
Yeah.
In this way.
Yeah, good call. Where like he's a hero in his own right. This was his arch nemesis. He's kind of Superman before Superman, and you get a sense of his principles.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is still telling us a lot about Jor-El as a character.
Yeah, that's a great point. So these costumes are really interesting because they're made with this reflective material that like you shine light on it, and then it's almost like a black light. Like it's this really cool material, but the folds in it were always really weird to me. Like I always thought as a kid they looked kind of cheap, but like they're not cheap at all. But they kind of look kind of like tinfoil.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. It's because it looks like they're wearing tinfoil, but it's like tinfoil in Tron.
Chewbacca's Lover put in a $2 super chat and says Eric called this a grand biblical epic. I mean, that's just what it is.
That is true.
And literally biblical because you've got all of these, clear parallels to Jesus, of course. And like Jor-El is God. He sends his son to Earth to save it, literally. Or at least to, quote unquote, show it the way. But I think it's a really important distinction that Jor-El doesn't just send him to Earth because that's a planet that can sustain him. He knows that he knows a lot about Earth, and maybe Kryptonians have been there. It's kind of crazy just how much information they have about Earth. because when he's on his way there in the rocket, or the rocket, I guess now it's like a star, which is another thing people like to point to as being Jesus allegoric, is like the Star of Bethlehem, and
Yeah, there's
I
also some Moses to it as well beyond the Jesus thing.
that's true.
And I mean, I guess there just is in Superman in general, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think the difference, because everybody makes fun of the Jesus thing in, say, Snyder, and I think the difference is that it's subtext for you to read into here. He's not, Donner's not coming out and being like, "Look,
Oh, and Snyder is real
Jesus."
pretentious about it. It's like, aren't I
Mhm.
a genius for, putting his head right next to a stained glass window?
Mhm. No, exactly. Like here, it's just subtext.
Well, it works here because you can look at it on multiple levels, and you
Mhm.
can get something out of it without even thinking about that at all.
No, exactly.
Like that isn't the point of it.
Mhm.
It's an accent idea that makes Superman a more iconic, larger than life, uh, legendary kind of character. So it isn't
Mhm.
saying that Superman is literally Jesus, or that he is, because apparently Richard Donner got like death threats about that. It's like like making too big of a deal out of Superman being Jesus. I guess from like maybe like religious freaks that just go too far with that. That are like, oh God,
Mhm.
you compared him to Jesus. That's blasphemy. I don't know.
Mhm. No, he should have had Superman go, "I'm bigger than Jesus, Lois." Bah, 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 bah. But that doesn't surprise me, like, especially back then. Like, I feel like a lot more people were like deeply religious than now.
Oh, certainly, yeah. In the majority of the country, would
Hmm.
have at least presumed to be, but that was true up to about 20 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so something that is fascinating about this movie is it's looking real close at the source material and trying to translate that the best it can. Obviously, it comes up with some new ideas, uh, but it does that so well, and then its new ideas are uh, so like innovative and memorable that it then becomes the text that a lot of things after it are trying to adapt. And
Hmm.
we can point to a few other superhero movies and superhero franchises that have that. But it's pretty impressive that the movie that serves as the the foundation for this entire genre after it, and it was a long
Hmm.
time before we even thought of it as a genre. I
Yeah.
is so good it ends up having that. The
Hmm.
idea of the Superman symbol being a family crest was new to this movie, and everything does that now.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and like everything does that
That
now.
that did not exist
Um,
before this, and that was that writer saying,
mhm,
"Well, why does he have an S on his chest before his name is Superman?"
mhm. What's interesting too, I was just thinking about this while you were saying it. This movie's obviously incredibly inspirational to both the genre and Superman in general, and then Donner's also kind of a big inspiration behind the scenes for a lot of this stuff in the genre as well after the fact. Uh, in a lot of ways, people probably don't fully realize, where he gives Kevin Feige his start, and obviously produces the X-Men movies. Like he's a big
Well,
part of this
yeah,
genre, even outside of this film too.
well, yeah, and his wife is a big influence.
No, exactly. No, exactly. No, this movie and Donner in general are like really foundational to the entire genre.
Yeah, it's just wild to me. I don't think you can overemphasize the point that there was not a big budget superhero movie in this league before this movie, and it remains one of the best of them.
Hmm. No, exactly.
And is still the movie that all of this stuff gets compared to. Like it's you know we're talking about how it's a biblical epic. Like this movie is the Bible for superhero movies, and remains that way. You know, we always talk about how Feige says he makes everybody watch this movie before they make an MCU movie, or he used to, because I don't believe there's any way they do it now. Or if they do, they've kind of lost the plot a little bit. But
no, they watched this before they made Brave New World, and they were like, "This is just as Donner Superman would be."
Mystical Green Beanie in the comments there claims that the idea of Smallville being in Kansas comes from this movie, and I thought it predated this. If that's true, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If so, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I meant to say at the beginning, too, we're like the two perfect people to talk about this, because we go to Kansas and they're shooting in Canada
That's
for Kansas.
True. Yeah, and it's crazy that there is precedent for Superman shooting in Canada with this movie, because that's Smallville and Superman and Lois, I think.
Yeah.
So Smallville has been Canada most of the time.
Exactly. So really, I mean, Superman is created by I don't think he's like fully Canadian, but he's like partially Canadian. I forget if it's Schuster's Spiegel. I can never remember.
Oh, was that right?
One.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's like half Canadian.
Every time I watch this movie, it makes me kind of long for the days when we made stuff more practically. And that's not me throwing shade at good CG, but the reason I appreciate so much being done in the lens is just when you know it's done that way, and there are shots that you cannot figure out how exactly they pulled off, it feels more impressive than when it's all done in a computer. When you go, we can make really anything just inside of this little digital box. But I was reminded, because I had kind of forgotten with Donner's commentary, like just how much was actually in the frame and not even composited or had matte paintings and stuff. Are you aware, Austin, that the giant heads at the Zod trial at the beginning are projected physically in that scene? They had these giant monitors behind them. So when Marlon Brando is standing there, he is actually seeing those heads. And it creates this sense of depth that I don't know if you could have had if you did it on a green screen.
I didn't know that, but that doesn't shock me. Like I feel like we used to do stuff like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think that's so neat.
Yeah.
That sounds really expensive. But they had all this front projection stuff.
Yeah. I also like how dark this gets with the destruction of Krypton. It doesn't just blow up.
Oh yeah, like you're actually seeing all these people die.
No, like, this is horrifying. This is the type of thing I always say I long for with these kinds of movies, which is the ability to scare the kids that you're aimed at.
Yeah, and that like it makes it feel weightier, and it makes the kids feel like they're the movie is not dumbing it down for them, and like maybe it's a little beyond them, and they're not really sure if they should be looking at it, and then it's all okay at the end.
Yeah, exactly. As Don Bluth said, as long as there's a happy ending, you can show kids anything.
Well, that's not me advocating for only ever having happy endings. This sort of thing, of course, needs one, and you're you just want a sense of like with any good story, you want a sense of stakes, and you want a sense of danger, and you want to believe that there's something wrong for Superman to fix. At that point, I always make that you can make a dark Superman movie. You just have to make sure Superman's not the thing that's dark about it. One of the things I like about setting this in the actual late 70s is that for the people then, that kind of felt like a dark time, and it's a good time for Superman to show up. And they just kind of like it looks like a comic book, but it's presented as more or less feeling as cynical as it was, or at least the people in the movie are kind of living in a world that they don't think is great, you know.
Mm. And it's also not a one for one, obviously, but like it is also comparable to what the climax will be, which is you're seeing like the ground shift open and people falling into it.
That's a great
And
point.
obviously that's going to be a big part of what the climax will be.
Well, and I'm getting ahead of myself with thematic read for a second, Austin, but Austin's leaving. He's tired of my thematic analysis.
Sorry, I forgot to grab my box of tissues. I'm still like slightly getting over a cold.
Oh, you're okay. Thanks for doing it, man. And now we're already in our second section. One of the cool risks this takes is having three entirely different looks, and like kind of types of movies, and it's also one of those movies that in a weird way ends up like quote unquote having something for everyone. Like it's weird how cohesive it feels, but it's really all these different kinds of things all blended together, and you're able to go to like dark places like you were talking about, and you're able to go to kind of quintessential like apple pie Americana. This is kind of like your Little House on the Prairie section, and then your opening section was your grand space opera, like a 2001 or something, and then later you're able to just do kind of high camp. It's crazy. It's able to run the gamut of genre, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And obviously, we're not going to fully go there, but like you do have a little bit of the you go from Krypton to like the Superboy era to then Superman and Metropolis.
And you can kind of imagine an entire movie in any of those sections. And obviously that third section is basically a whole movie. It's a full hour and a half. They could have, I'm not saying they should have done this, obviously. They could have just released that. And like that is a movie. I mean, it's missing an opening, but it's kind of missing an opening.
I mean, just like keep the opening with the curtain, and then boom, Clark Kent is now at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, because you got the kids like the Daily Planet, and then there he is.
Yeah, exactly. There he is. He's Superman.
What I love about that is after your big epic opening, in the first 90 seconds of your movie, you get the line, "There's only one P in rapist," and that's just wonderful.
You could edit it so it's the first line of the movie.
You could, yeah, right at the very start.
Yes. And I tell that Superman. Lois, there's only one P in rapist. Here's Clark Kent. Now that's a picture.
Okay, I'm gonna get to my Jarrell thematic thing here in a second if I can remember it. But something I meant to mention at the beginning that I had never noticed before, and then watch you go back to one of my old videos and I talked about it. I don't think I'd ever noticed it before. Mankiewicz has this awesome line at the very beginning where the first thing, and I don't have it in front of me to read it verbatim, but the first thing Jarrell says in the movie is, "This is not a fantasy." And he says it's not in, I forget exactly what he says. It's not like idle something, but the point is, you're supposed to take this seriously. You're supposed to see it as real, and it's not just a cute line for the audience. It works on, it's got subtext. It works on two levels, because it also makes sense with what he's saying, with what he's talking about. Because he's talking about the stakes involved in what they're about to do to Jarrell. Or to Zod. But it's such a cool way to open it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great, especially after that initial opening.
And it works because then they deliver on it. I mean, I think he wrote that because Hollywood was so trepidatious about doing this kind of thing and thinking that anybody would care about a serious, like, big budget version of a superhero, which is why initially it was just going to be, a farce. And you hear that with all of these projects early on. Like, Superman was supposed to be a farce. Batman was supposed to be a farce.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, apparently Richard Donner was like, they're going to ruin Superman. I can't do that. Or I can't let that happen.
And it also helped that they offered him $1 million.
Yeah. So that sequence we just saw with the bullies, that is why Stan Lee was like, this is ripping us off, right? There's the... Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry, say that again. Why did you think he was saying that? Sorry, I'm looking up something real quick.
No, I said that scene with the bullies is why Stan Lee said that they're ripping him off, right? Like, you have the bullies that are like, oh, Peter Parker, I mean, Clark Kent, you're no good. We get the girl because we're cool. I'm not saying that it's literally ripping off Marvel. I'm just saying that Stanley probably watched that and was like, "This is just Spider-Man, right?"
I think he also maybe said it because they like I said earlier, said it so firmly in present day and made a world that kind of looks like the one we live in. Instead of being
where it's just New York,
more ambiguous about it. Yeah, it's just straight New York. Which I've never known how exactly to feel about. Like, it's cool that they shot there, but like putting the Statue of Liberty literally in Metropolis and just making it straight up New York, and then Batman later on does exactly the same thing. You have a Statue of Liberty in Batman Forever, and we just keep making New York literally the city our superhero is in. No, okay. Even though it's not really called that. So something else I didn't realize, and then I got a million things to hit, Austin. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's Superman the movie.
Oh, there's so much. I'm gonna have to go back. And when I was a kid, I thought this was boring until he gets to Metropolis. I don't know why.
This is like some of the best stuff with Pa Kent.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's also just really gutsy to not have your lead until like 40 minutes in.
It is, but what I was going to say is you do sort of have him right now, which is something that I didn't realize until recently. But this actor is being dubbed by Christopher Reeve all through this.
Okay, when I rewatched it today, I was like, is he being dubbed, or is he just like really good at doing a Christopher Reeve impression?
It's such a good dub, nobody noticed it. And I didn't notice it until, like I said, very recently. And it's sad for this actor. I have to go back and look his name up. I don't know it right off. But they weren't originally planning to dub him. And ultimately, Donner just decided his voice didn't sound close enough. I don't know if it was just too high-pitched or what the deal was, but they were trying really hard to make him look and feel as much like Reeve as possible. And I think there was maybe more pressure on them to do that in this than maybe some other things, because this is done linearly. And to your point, this is how we meet this character. So, like, very often, like, if we had Christopher Reeve in the first place and then we flashed back and you already had that actor in your head, maybe they wouldn't feel the need to do that. But maybe they're worried we won't buy it's the same character if we're introduced to him and he's got this other voice. So he got really upset that they dubbed him. I was like, they didn't tell me they were going to do that. Well, they didn't plan to do that originally. And apparently he was kind of upset with Christopher Reeve about it for a long time. I mean, it wasn't really his fault, but like...
Yeah, I mean, I understand being upset about it. At the same time, like, it does work for the movie.
And they put quite a bit of prosthetics on him in a wig to make him look more like Christopher Reeve. And I don't think that's super noticeable either. Yeah, that's not his nose.
Fascinating. Like, once you say wig, like, if I'm, like, really looking for it, like, maybe I can kind of see it. Like, not that it's, like, noticeable.
But isn't that amazing, Austin? This movie was made almost 50 years ago, and all of that, you buy all of that. I've been talking
No,
a
that's
lot.
amazing.
Talk about Pa Kent's death and why it's great.
I mean, it's perfection. It's just the way that Pa Kent should always go. Like, I just think that's such an important moment for Superman. Seeing somebody that he loves pass away in a way that he can't, take care of, in a way that he can't fix.
I love that we introduce him essentially. I mean, you see the toddler pick up the truck and all of that, but we're basically introducing the concept of Superman with his limitations, with his human weakness, with his vulnerability, and saying that he is a man with the same like feelings and hangups the rest of us have. And so we're made to. I think this is the best argument, and again, introduced a lot of people to this character, in making them care about him in the first place. And to this day, you have people that say you can't tell interesting Superman stories because he's too powerful. And this is the argument for that, where you say, well, let's lead with his humanity and his limitations. And so by the time you see just what he can do, you're not thinking this guy is too powerful and is godlike. You're thinking, man, it must be kind of difficult to be Superman. Like, with everything he can do, look what he can't do.
Yeah, no, I feel like there, is like a certain group of people, or maybe I shouldn't put it that way, but I feel like there's, people now that look at this movie as very, cheesy and like, oh, like Superman's kind of silly and stuff. But a lot of those kind of complaints like that are kind of being dealt with here. Like, you have that. This is also a movie that is kind of like eye rolling and like cynical in Metropolis and everything around Superman, while Superman is like the wholesome thing in it. Like, it's not like everyone else is, like, golly gee. Like, this is a movie where, like, a little girl is like, "Hey, mom, like, I saw a man that can fly," and her mom punches her.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's why the hopefulness in it works, because you've got to put him in a world that is kind of fighting back against that. And
yeah, that needs Superman.
And yeah, maybe it feels quaint and less, dire and conflicted than the world we live in now, but it's not perfect. And you do have a Metropolis that embraces him overall pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing the whole, like, everybody on the streets is rioting because they've got this, God amongst them that could, kill anyone at any time. They also don't really have a sense of just how powerful he is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess they kind of do. Like, they learn pretty quick that he's bulletproof and he can fly and all of that. But I like that the emphasis isn't. I think the emphasis these days has gotten a little bit too much on he's a god. Mm-hmm. And I think this does balance that pretty well, where the world still feels cynical enough, but I'm still buying that people are more or less trusting Superman. I don't know why that works, but that works for me.
I mean, I think it works just because Christopher Reeve's portrayal is so good. Like, yeah, you can buy into it. You know what I mean?
So there is one thing that undercuts this very tender, somber, sad scene for me. And that is the product placement for Cheerios.
Cheerios? I didn't even notice it until you said it.
There are multiple shots of her with the Cheerios box next to her. Or maybe the extended cut has more of it, because I didn't see as much here. But there's like 3 shots if you watch the extended cut from different angles. And with the Cheerios box, and it's framed like a commercial.
No, Cap, it's symbolic that he's no longer the same kid anymore that she could feed Cheerios to. He's not her baby anymore.
So Austin Mankiewicz cracked me up in that commentary I watched today, because he said something I never thought about before. There's places where he pokes holes in his own story, and it's wonderful, where he goes, and you're like, this is this beloved movie that at one time it felt like people just could not criticize. Mankiewicz goes, how long would it take this elderly woman to get here from her house. Because Donner was talking about this, like, single, like, thin path that everyone in the crew had to take so they didn't ruin the wheat in the wheat fields. And Mankiewicz goes, I'm pretty sure she drove across that path and came up here in a car.
Oh, Clark's an a-hole. He let her do it. He heard her do it. He sat back anyways. She just wanted to give him some Cheerios.
Now, I will say, it's not obnoxiously blatant product placement compared to a lot of other things, but as soon as I see it, I can't stop looking at it. And I mean, like, you know, I always say this, like, it gives your movie more credibility, especially if it's set in a specific time and place. Like, yeah, she'd have Cheerios. Like, it wouldn't be some.
I mean, it's weirder that it's just on the windowsill. That's like the weird part of it. Like, it's in a weird spot. I mean, it's not even the most aggressive product placement in a Superman movie.
We haven't talked score very much, but the more I watch this movie, some of my favorite score is actually in the Smallville section. The rising string stuff right after the funeral is just amazing. Like, it's one of the best things.
Yeah, there's people in chat earlier saying that they think this is Williams' best work, and it's definitely up there. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite, but because I'd probably give that to Indiana Jones, but it's definitely up there. Like, it's definitely like a close second for me.
So I'm not a giant Indiana Jones guy, but I think objectively Raiders of the Lost Ark is probably his best score.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, I love that and the Temple of Doom score. I listen to them a lot.
I have seen that movie maybe a total of 2 or 3 times in my life. Like, I'm just not a giant Indiana Jones guy. But, and I used to have a CD when I was a kid of John Williams music. It was like a major orchestra that played certain pieces. And I listened to that a fair bit, and the tracks that stuck with me the most were from that movie.
No, I mean, that makes sense to me. It's a really good score. I mean, John Williams, especially at this point, you know, is like godlike, but it's all just great stuff.
The Fortress of Solitude set is nuts.
Oh, it's beautiful.
One of the neatest, most elaborate sets in anything.
No, and this is where we get the crystal look for it, right?
Yeah, and that we can't get away from either. I mean, occasionally we do something different, like Man of Steel or whatever, but like we often go back to the crystal thing.
Now, that one's weird with how they do that.
Now, I think in the comics, the fortress, even before this, looks like a big ice castle. But I think and somebody tell me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, I think the crystal idea, just like the crests on Krypton, is supposed to be an explanation for why it looks like that. Or at least that makes the most sense to me. The sound effect of the ice shards going up against each other always made me cringe when I was a kid, like nails on a chalkboard.
It is kind of that sound.
It's a great sound effect, though. That's just what that would sound like. And then this is one of the most cinematic moments in the movie. This kind of pyrotechnic business, where you get this cool strobe effect. I love him just in pitch black for a second.
Oh, it's really cool looking.
Cedar 6 put in a $2 super chat and says, if you were this Superman, would you bullet time?
Yes.
I don't think so. So, because the idea with bullet time is you move so fast that you I are basically seeing the world in slow motion when you're moving like that. And with the exception, and this is one of my hangups with it, with the exception of Superman flying fast enough to go back in time, he doesn't move that fast. He's not able to stop the two missiles because he can't go fast enough. That Superman doesn't bullet time unless apparently he rages hard enough because his girlfriend died, and then
he does catch the bullet. That, I guess, was technically he's probably
true.
looking at it in bullet time.
That's true. Maybe that's literally bullet time. Okay, I stand corrected.
Apparently, you also missed one from Bob the Han.
Oh, thank you. I'm just saying crap, Austin. I don't know why people show up for these. Bob the Han $5 super chat. What happens if this movie comes out in the 50s instead of Superman and the Mole Men, alternate universe where the actors exist earlier and the same effects? Well, I mean, I guess basically the 50s would just turn into the late 70s. And
it would just reverse. In the 70s, we would then get Superman versus the Mole Men, but like the casts are reversed. I'm gonna flip it. I know he said the people who made this are in the 50s. I'm gonna reverse it. I'm gonna say the people that made Mole Men make this exact movie. So it's George Reeves, George Reeves, sorry, and then you get Superman versus the Mole Men with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this question is more about like technological innovation and all of that. Like if they managed to figure out the flying effects and the opticals and all of that early, what would the world look like after that? And I mean, you would have a greater level of technological possibilities with whatever you were making in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So then, if you've got the scripts to match, then you would end up with, well, I guess what you'd end up with is the blockbuster a couple of decades before you had it. I guess that's the answer.
Hollywood dies earlier.
Maybe so. Like as long as you've got the the brilliant minds behind it. So when
you probably lose 66 if that happens.
Yeah, possibly, but that's a TV show.
No, but I mean, like, you probably, 89 takes its place, right?
Maybe, but I don't know if that technological innovation gets ahead of the, kitschy sensibilities of the time. So it's like...
Possibly, but with this being the precedent, we probably jump straight more into a big budget.
Sure, the answer
not
is
as goofy Batman.
You're right. Superheroes become a genre faster.
Mm-hmm.
That's the answer.
That's all I mean. Yeah, it's right. This is your basis way earlier. Then you probably get some of that stuff earlier.
Okay, we got to plot forward because I have so many things. I haven't even gotten into my Jor-El thematic thing. I'll get to. Maybe I'll wait till the end now. Okay, so
I mean we're in a Jor-El scene.
Yeah. So I know, but I got to talk about this. So Jor-El says. My son, let's leave the Earth behind and go into space. I got all these things to teach you. And I'm like, okay, is this all basically in his mind and they just stay in the cave for 12 straight years? Or is
That's always been my interpretation.
Literally propelling him through space? Because I'm pretty sure he's not, but I don't really know what's happening.
That's always been my interpretation, is that it's like a mental journey.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weirdest thing about this scene, and another of the very 70s, and the 80s did some of this too, kind of trippy ideas, is the weird, glass Jor-El head that we then fly through his eyeball. It's really super weird, and I don't know why they did that.
It's super cool, though.
It is cool, but I don't what am I looking at? What is happening?
But we're flying into his mind as he takes us through this astrological journey.
And then here's that great iconic line. They only lack the...
Thank God we didn't make a movie just based on that line.
They only let the light show them the way. Yeah, and then here's that weird face.
It's Doctor Doom.
It looks like Spock. Like,
see, it's always reminded me of Doctor Doom or like Destro.
Well, I think the reason I have that is because Star Trek 4 also does this really weird thing with the time travel where they have all the main cast with these weird heads as they go back in time, and it looks like that. And the Spock one looks a lot like that. Okay, so now we're in the third act, Austin. So,
wow, that was quick.
I know. Get ready for the hour-and-a-half climax.
There's not even a villain yet.
The start of our epic climax that begins with "There is only one P in rapist," and
yeah, exactly. That's really how all climaxes should begin. Really,
there's no Z in Brazier.
Is this also the start of Lois can't spell? Because that's something that we go to a lot too.
I would imagine so.
I like that as a quirk. Like, I do think that's fun.
I'm going to assume that in this commentary we will credit this movie for at least two things the comics did and not it. But I'm pretty
didn't do.
That's probably happening.
Well, I think this is also the first time Superman had a cape. And the first appearance of Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, the first and last appearance of Jimmy Olsen.
Hey, this actor got to be in the Snyder Cut.
That's true. Okay, so I want to turn time backwards myself here for a second and go all the way back to the train in Smallville, because I was going to talk about that scene that's missing. So in the deleted scene, you briefly in the theatrical version see a little girl on the train, and and she's got her parents with her, but you don't really see their faces. And then when you see the excuse me, the extended cut, they actually have a couple of lines of dialogue, and or at least the mother does, and she says that Lois Lane's got an active imagination or something. So Lois Lane sees Clark running at super speed before she grows up and falls in love with Superman, which I think is just a little too cute. And is kind of Smallville-y, and I'm glad that it's left out of this version. What sucks about it being left out of this version is that scene has the coolest cameos, because those parents are Noel Neal and Kirk Allen.
Oh, okay. That's too bad they couldn't fit them in somewhere else if they knew it was going to be cut.
Yeah.
And don't call me Shirley.
Yeah, it's interesting that Superman has already got so much history on screen that this movie, just like everything after it, and often doing references and callbacks to this movie, is already doing a lot of fan service references. So when he says, don't call me Sugar, that's a reference to Don't Call Me Chief, which is what he says all the time in the 50s show. And then you've got Lois Lane later saying, why is there never a Man of Steel around when you need one? What does she think she's referencing? Where did Man of Steel come from in this universe? Did she maybe call him the Man of Steel in her article about him? That's possible, but it's another one of those things that we can't get away from after this movie, where somebody's got to say faster than a locomotive, or somebody's got to say look up in the sky. I just think it's important to note that this movie, being the quintessential early Superman thing, also is doing those.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, Bob the Hun, that's a great point. He says it also means Lois is like 10 years younger than Clark when they're obviously
That's what
the
I was
same
thinking.
age. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, and I was like, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, they clearly are supposed to be close in age. RJ Godzilla, I'm pretty sure that Lois's inability to spell did come from this movie. We're just gonna keep second guessing everything we think this movie came up with first. I think this is the first time Clark Kent wears a hat.
I think it's also the first time he wears glasses, and the first time Lois Lane is a woman. I think it was the first time here, which is just swell, really.
I think we can be sure that it's the first time that it's confirmed that Lois Lane is wearing pink underwear, though.
I mean,
I
probably.
think we can be absolutely certain of that.
We go to some weird places in the comics in the Lois Lane book.
Oh, maybe that comes from the Lois Lane book. Sure.
Yeah, maybe. I think Richard Donner's original idea for a third film was the Lois Lane issue where she becomes black for a day. He was just a really big fan of that book.
Okay, can I make a theory that's reaching?
Absolutely.
Do you think Clark bumbling through the revolving door is foreshadowing for later when he will change into his Superman clothes through a revolving door?
I didn't have that thought, but that's fun.
It works. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it works.
I've also seen people do that, and it is super awkward.
It is.
And that's also one of my favorite Reeve moments is when he goes to shake the guy's hand and then quickly dodges the revolving door.
When they go into this alley, I think this is maybe the only place in the movie where it's really super obvious that they have switched locations and they're shooting in a different country now. Like, the quality of the film looks different. The lens is a little hazier. It's weird. And I think it's really clear that they're on a backlot now, and they were in New York right before this. Like, when they walk into the... and I didn't know this, to be fair, before today, doing research. But, like, once I see it, I can't unsee it.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where I think it works in the movie, but, like, if you know what you're looking for, like, it is kind of funny.
I'm not sure.
It's not as bad as Batman punching Bane into a different part of the city, but you can tell it's a different place.
So really quick, let me ask you: how much do you think? Because classically, of course, Christopher Reeve does an amazing job of playing two different roles, and he's got his bumbling Clark Kent personality and his stalwart Superman personality. How much of Clark Kent do you think is just a straight up act? Like, because the way I see it is he basically takes the persona that he builds through his Smallville days into adulthood and he splits them.
That's kind of how I've always seen it too, where it's like both Superman and Clark are kind of like half him. He's a combination of both, but I mean it's definitely at least part an act.
I've always liked the idea in the second movie that, and this is like with the Lester stuff, which is not as good as what Donner did and was trying to do, certainly. But I do kind of like the thing that Lester does there, where he has Clark. I've talked about this before, where he has Clark trip and get his hands in fire, and that's what makes Lois realize that he for sure must be Superman. It's not as good as the gunshot thing, obviously, but what I like about it is he's gotten so used to bumbling as Clark that he can't help but do it like as a matter of course, and it's kind of this cool identity question of how much of that is just a part of his personality thing. Like, it's like he is whoever he is, depending on what clothes he puts on. And in order to have this secret identity and like the one lie he has to tell while he's otherwise the most truthful person on the planet, is kind of forced him into almost a multiple personality situation. I just think that's interesting.
No, I've always liked that scene too. I was also thinking it's kind of funny, you know, these are obviously like the two big ones. They're like a decade apart, obviously, but I think it's interesting that he has more of a voice between personas than Keaton does as Batman.
And he needs it more.
No, of course.
And I think the reason Keaton can get away with that is because he has like 5 lines of dialogue as Batman in that entire movie.
And because he's just crazy.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't even think his Bruce Wayne moves all that differently outside of the Batsuit, except he's able to move his neck. Like,
he's able to move his neck?
He's pretty stiff.
Bruce Wayne can't be Batman. His neck is moving.
Now, I will say, some of like just watching the villains, or I should say Lex and his henchmen carrying out their plots goes on a
Mhm.
little long for me. It's one of the few complaints I have about the pacing with this. Is like a lot of it is kind of like mood and atmosphere and making you feel like you're in this big city, and I appreciate all of that. When you get away from Superman and Clark for too long to watch the bumbling villains, it gets a little tedious. And then when you get into Lex's lair and you get all the really well written banter, I love all of that stuff. Like I don't mind that we go a little campy with that because it's written so well. But more
Mhm.
of my complaint with the villain stuff is just all of this
The
drags a
stuff like
little.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I like the kind of 40s intrigue here we have where we almost stumble into like a detective movie.
Okay, sure. I guess it's
And then
harder for
obviously
me to
later on it's like a
appreciate
heist
that
thing.
because of the Bulk and Skull music.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like we got this real noirish looking thing, and it's boom, 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 boom. That undercuts what you're saying just a tad.
What's more, I guess, it's more like a detective movie in the vein of like a Roger Moore Bond film, I guess.
I'm gonna go back in and edit the scene though. With Lex is
Beautiful.
introduced here kind of like a Bond villain.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's like Blofeld. This is also just a really cool death trap. Like, yeah, I said detective movie. This is more out of like a James Bond film.
And it is cool. Like people like to complain that this is a goofier Lex Luthor, and we can talk about like why that is and how it's not fair to expect a modern Lex. But um, it is cool. And people say he's basically a '60s Batman villain. There are certainly more than parallels to '60s Batman with him. Like that's the one aspect of this where they're absolutely looking at that show. I can't
Mhm.
deny that. However, it's important to note that despite the bumblingness of Otis, Lex Luthor is introduced murdering a man from the comfort of his chair on a train. So
Mhm.
like he's at least doing bad things.
Mhm. No, I mean you say 66, but I think you really nailed it on the he's a Bond villain. Like even in being kind of silly
Yeah,
and like over the top thematic, like that's exactly what he is. And this is a Bond villain layer, like
yeah, that's true.
absolutely. Um, no, he's got like the femme fatale that's like pussy galore, and then Otis isn't really like a Bond thing, but I mean we do that a lot too. The like comedic relief henchman, and it's probably better that Lex doesn't have, like a Bond villain henchman because Zod will then have both that and a
That's
female
true.
henchman. So it's good that it's not the exact same.
Yeah, it is. It is closer to Bond than it is '66. But there are certainly parallels. Like I get why people look at that.
Yeah, of course.
And I would be surprised if Donner wasn't thinking that at all. But
Hmm.
one of the things that reminds me a lot of '60s Batman is the way the female henchman is handled. Because you do that in a lot with Batman episodes where you have that like redeemable female henchman that turns against the villain and then helps Batman get out of a death trap or something.
Hmm.
We do exactly that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pussy galore. Like
So I guess it's
that's
also a Bond thing.
definitely.
So I mean, we might just be looking at a trope that,
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it is fitting both sides. Um,
admittedly, his
100%.
Lex's outfit is also a little '60s Batman.
It is over the top. I do think that art through adversity, it is kind of brilliant that Lex wears wigs because he's like that. I don't know, concerned, I guess, about being bald. Like he can't show that. I do
I,
think that is a cool
I
idea for
just
Lex
think it's
Luthor.
it's so funny that you're like art over adversity because the adversity is
Is that Hackman was like, I'm not going to shave my head.
The adversity is the famous actor that you got because you needed a couple of big actors in Hackman and in Brando to get the studio to bankroll it. Will not do the part if he has to shave his head or wear a skull cap. And like, it's amazing that they got him to wear that for the one scene at the end.
Well, I know it was like a huge fight just to get him to shave his mustache. And Donna's whole thing was, kids know that Lex Luthor is bald. They know that he doesn't have a mustache. Like, it has to be authentic.
Yeah, and he wears a different wig in every scene, which is also very goofy. And doesn't always translate to me. Like, I almost needed somebody to tell me that. Like, I guess I just don't look that close at hair.
Well, I think it helps that it's different colors a lot of the time. Like, sometimes it'll have gray streaks, sometimes it doesn't. But no, I think that's a great idea for Lex Luthor. Obviously, like, if you have to deal with the fact that your actor for Lex won't shave his head or wear a bald cap.
Real quick, can we point out some other things that are dated and extremely 70s? The second most 70s thing in the entire movie is the tie that Lois is currently wearing.
I mean, Lois looks like she's a air stewardess
she's a
right
flight
now.
attendant, yeah!
By the way, Lois, I love flying and pink.
So it's that, it's Can You Read My Mind? What other extremely 70s things did you notice in this, Austin?
That guy that comments on Superman's suit when he goes to save Lois.
Oh yeah, that is one bad outfit!
That is one bad outfit! And it's wonderful, but that's so 70s.
It's great.
It's beautiful. I mean, that is so 70s in the way that, like, the Raimi Spider-Man movies are of their era too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same kind of a thing.
RJ Godzilla, Lex is very vain, so it makes sense he has different wigs. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Oh yeah, he's so vain he thinks everything's about him. He's constantly talking about how much of a genius he is, and
he's so vain he probably thinks this film is about him.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's what I was getting at. Everybody put it in better words by remembering that the word vain exists, but that's basically what I was getting at with the wig thing.
Yeah, his wanting to sink part of California in the ocean to get land is basically just a vanity project. So it goes without saying, but the helicopter catch is one of the most iconic action scenes in anything. It's so incredibly well shot.
That's amazing. It still looks great to this day.
One thing that is pretty silly, and they're getting away with some of this kind of stuff because of Donner's mission statement to make the third section of this straight up out of a comic book. And you would do this kind of thing, especially back then in comics. Everything that can go wrong goes wrong this one night. And if you start thinking about how they stack up, it gets really funny. It's like anywhere Lois is going to be. So like Lois gets on this helicopter and it spins out of control like this. And then later she's talking about going to Air Force One, and then Air Force One is suddenly gonna like lose engines and almost explode. Like, if all of this happened, I don't care if Superman saves all of these people, if all this happened in the same night, the whole country would start to wonder if we should be flying at all as a species. Like, should human beings even be in the air anymore?
Flying is still the safest way to travel.
No, it's not!
No, I kind of... Oh, especially not this year.
Hey, Superman, guess what? No, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here, Superman.
And then you know what's crazy? They were supposed to shoot this scene. Obviously, like some of this is on a stage and some of it's on top of an actual like helicopter pad. But they were supposed to shoot part of this on top of I can't remember, one of the big buildings in New York City. And it got shut down and they weren't allowed to shoot there because a helicopter spun out of control and people died. Can you believe that? That actually happened.
It's not coincidental. Everything's going wrong.
Yeah, but Air Force One didn't almost go down the same night, okay?
Yeah, Harrison Ford was just there to save it.
And then you have all this crime in the same night. Like, he decides to put on a Superman costume in the most dangerous, event-filled night of the decade.
See, I assume that's just what Metropolis looks like before Superman. Like, that's just, what that is. But I actually really like that as a choice, because we always have, like, that scene, right? Like, we always got to do that scene where we introduce the hero, and here we are. I like that we do it in, like, a little montage where he's going all across the city doing things. I do really like that as a choice.
Well, and because he's introducing himself to all these different people in all these different ways, you buy how quickly the status quo turns into everybody's, interested in believes in Superman. You don't have that period of like is he real? I mean, I guess you've got articles being written that are like, maybe it's just wires, like some people aren't immediately buying it, but very quickly, like, he's everywhere all at once.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. No, and like I said earlier, like, it's a city that needs Superman, so now he's here. And speaking of the referential thing, that's also the phone booth thing. Like, we're already subverting that.
Yeah. Like, the quintessential classic Superman thing is still too late for him to just go in a phone booth. Like, oh, we don't have those anymore. We just have these smaller phone booths. I mean, now those don't exist at all.
And Deadpool 2 thought it was so clever for that teaser to have the phone booth gag, and we were making it in, the first major superhero film ever made.
One of these days, we're going to have a Superman that changes clothes inside of a cell phone. He, like, shrinks himself down. He goes in a phone.
Well, it'll basically be like the Flash, right? Like, he'll just keep the suit in his phone and it'll shoot out.
RJ Godzilla, oh my god, the amount of terrible things that happened in one night. That's what I was talking about. The shootout, the helicopter accident, Air Force One almost crashing, which was where Lois... That's what I'm saying.
That cat was in that tree.
The cat was in that tree.
That mom punched her child for saying she saw a flying man. I want Superman to, like, fly back down and be like, hey...
Child abuse is never okay, madam.
Child abuse is still the safest way to travel.
I knew you were going to say that. That's probably the most impressive takeoff.
Oh, it's so good. It's so seamless.
And then this is the point where they're just showing off. When he, like, spins around, like, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I've seen the, like, behind the scenes for that takeoff, and, like, even seeing how they did it, like, it looks so good.
When the advertising campaign, when the posters said "You'll believe a man can fly," like, the shot we just looked at, that's the money shot. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's also, I never really thought about this until listening to Donner talk about just the sheer amount of hours that Christopher Reeve had to spend in rigs and in wires. And just the fact that this movie took 18 months to shoot, but then Christopher Reeve by himself had to spend another year doing pickups. Like, that's crazy. It never occurred to me just how many flying shots there are.
There's a lot.
He's in the air a lot.
Mm-hmm. And then by Superman 4, he spends minutes in the rigs to film that film. But no, there's a ton of flying scenes in this film. Like, almost every scene he's in. Like when he's in the Superman suit.
And I think you get so used to it being credible that you just take it for granted after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest compliments you could pay it. Is if that didn't look good, you'd constantly be distracted by it. Like, oh, they're going to try to make him take off again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Now we're in the Spider-Man 2 shootout.
Yeah, well, this is traditional Richard Donner stuff.
Yeah, now we're in Lethal Weapon. The beginning of Lethal Weapon, too.
Yeah, he made a lot of movies that look like this.
Yeah, like The Goonies and The Omen.
Your Superman video game could be a lot like the good Spider-Man games where you're just going around stopping crimes and saving people.
Yeah, I always thought the Superman Returns game had a good idea with the whole the city as a life bar instead, and you go around saving it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, like, I think you can do stuff like this, where it's like there's just constantly stuff happening.
Yeah, if only the camera wasn't painful in that game. If only it was playable. It's got a good soundtrack.
I feel like we just really overthink Superman in games, and that's part of why it never works.
We overthink him in games the same way we do in story. We're like, he's too powerful, you can't make him interesting. He's too powerful, you can't play as him. It's really the same problem. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's got to be doable.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't think about it the same way.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's almost the same thing as directors finding it difficult to do action movies with characters that don't carry guns. Like, you'll hear that with sometimes like people making a Batman movie or something where it's like, usually your hero can just shoot stuff, but this is hard because he doesn't shoot anything.
Just give Superman a gun and do Superman Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, but the city has a life bar.
Yeah, exactly, and just constantly play the John Williams theme on loop.
Okay, so while I'm thinking about it, let me go ahead and get my Drell thing out of the way real quick. We're about to see Superman rescue a cat out of a tree.
And then the mom's gonna punch that child.
So at the beginning, you were talking. You made me think of something I don't know that I've ever thought of before, Austin. Which is when you were talking about how violent the destruction of Krypton is, and I was thinking about how Jor-El, and this is traditional Superman stuff. We even had this in the serial. Jor-El does everything he can. Hold on. Haven't I told you to stop telling lies? That sound effect? Yeah. Now Air Force One's going to go down. If I'm Superman, I'm just never sleeping again.
Some versions of Superman don't have to sleep, so like maybe he doesn't.
No, sure, yeah. He's like Santa Claus, but all the time.
Exactly.
Like, what are the odds of that the same night that helicopter goes down? Anyway, so
what is it, 2025?
So Jor-El does everything he can to convince the Council on Krypton that Krypton's about to explode. And, of course, they don't believe him, and they say, we believe the science, but not your conclusions with the science. And ultimately, he's not able to change the course of history on his planet. And then he tells his son that he's not allowed to interfere in human history. And at the end of the movie, and this has always been my hang-up, and we'll talk about this more when we get there, Clark does change the course of human history in that he changes time, he goes back in time, and he saves Lois. And for a long time, I've been weirded out by that because I feel like there's not any consequence for him defying his father. And I've got a new read on it, Austin, which is Jor-El was wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what I said in the top 100. Not like specifically that, but like just that, like Clark's defying what Jor-El says and going against it, and like that's the reason that he's right for doing it. Like, yeah, Jor-El's not exactly right.
Well, it's a couple things. One of them is Jor-El tried to reverse the course of Krypton's history, and unfortunately failed, but that doesn't mean that he was wrong for doing that. Now, you can argue if Superman is playing God by, going back in time and all of that. But it also reads differently to me now, thinking more about the details of the only person that was going to die would have been Lois. And the first time around, without realizing it, he basically sacrifices her in order to stop the missile that would have destroyed the most amount of people. And so his going back in time is basically the universe like throwing him a bone and giving him one and saying like you get to rescue her because you saved all of these people and you weren't able to save your father, and so now you get to do that. And so it's not hubris, it's more the universe giving its Jesus allegory like a thank you. So like that's working a little bit better for me, but also again it's Jor-El like saying you're not allowed to do what I tried to do and failed, and it's like, no, you did the right thing, it just didn't work out. And so Superman's got to be allowed to do that. And the other thing I missed before was there's an argument happening in Clark's head between his two fathers, and and Jonathan Kent wins the argument. And I don't think I ever gave it credit for that.
And I think, with your original read of not enough, consequences for it, that should have been what Superman 2 was, and it's not really. That's how we should have built off this movie.
Yeah,
but I think as a movie, I think it still is. I think it works.
Yeah, I'm saying this obviously with lots of hindsight, but if I could rework it, I would make the Phantom Zone breaking and Zod and his cronies coming out being a direct result of his changing time backwards. And the original version would have been he throws, like I said earlier, the missile out into space and it breaks that, but and it breaks the Phantom Zone, but that's not really. And also, I don't understand why the Phantom Zone is so close to Earth's orbit, but whatever.
Or why a missile could break it. I don't know what it is.
It's a big explosion, but I don't think it's nuclear.
No, I just mean what the Phantom Zone glass is.
Yeah, that's just glass. It's literally just glass, Austin.
It's a good thing a meteor didn't hit it before then.
Yeah, it could have. But anyway, that wouldn't have been a result of, it would have been consequences of him turning the world backwards. Because he throws the missile out in both instances. So you would have to rework it to make it that. But I do think, all told, even though it's still weird to give him the ability to be able to do that because he doesn't seem that powerful otherwise. That's one of the issues I have with it. It's still a better ending. It's still a better ending than just he saves her and then throws the missile out and then the end.
Yeah, no, that's more my thing. Is just again, it's one of those things that I think only happens because this is like the first one. We don't have the standard set. Like, it's I don't know. It's really strange. And it's the only place where it really leans into that like Silver Age Superman.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately they're just a little careless, and it's really the only place where they are, I think, in throwing in the world turning back in time thing, because or Superman spinning the world back, because as you guys all know probably by now, that was supposed to be the ending for 2. And the reason they change it and make it the ending for 1 is because Donner goes, we've already shot that, and it's the most dynamic, exciting action scene we have. So let's rework it and get it in 1. And in a way it's a mistake, and in a way it's not. Like, for the whole piece, for both 1 and 2 together, it's kind of a mistake. For this just as its own movie, maybe it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the question is just how do you end 2? Because the magic kiss thing is stupid. Like, if Donner had finished 2, I have no idea what the ending of that movie is.
Yeah. When I think, it just becomes much more complicated in that 2 is compromised, so we can't really answer that. But as a movie, I do think it works here. But then 1 and 2 aren't really like a part 1 and part 2 anymore because it's reworked while they're making it.
I'll address this real quick. RJ Godzilla said, I heard someone once say that it's not Superman is turning time back, it's that he is, or turning the world back, maybe is what he's saying. It's that he is traveling back in time, which I don't know if that's better or worse. I've never liked getting into the minutia of that. I don't really care what it is. Like the visual we're getting is he's spinning around the earth and then goofily it stops and it starts turning backwards. All that really matters is he can fly fast enough to somehow himself go back in time. I think that's all that really matters. I don't think physically what exactly is happening there is important.
It's just a visual way of representing that. And it's very comic booky.
Yeah, it is. And so when I say spinning the Earth back in time, that's just how everybody's always described it, because that's what you're physically seeing. Even Donner talks about it that way.
Because I mean that's literally what's happening.
You're watching that happen. Yeah. This is another kind of major story problem for me, Austin. That Superman is dumb enough to tell Lois that he can't see through lead so that she can publish that, and then the villain will find out that that is a weakness he has.
So I've never seen it as dumb, but like wholesome naivety. I don't know. I think that's fine.
That's probably what it's supposed to be, but I don't know. I kind of want to blame one of them for it. Where it's like, maybe don't publish that.
It's definitely a mistake. It's definitely a mistake, but like I can also see Superman coming out and being like, "Oh, this is how it goes." Like,
I can't see through lead.
People like Lex Luthor don't exist.
Okay, it's worse if you leave in the scene where Jor-El tells him he has to have a secret identity, because one of the reasons he gives, and again, I don't like Jor-El having to tell him that. Especially after he's been being bumbling Clark Kent. But he tells him one of the reasons he has to do that is because his enemies will use his friends against him if they know his identity. And so if he's already thinking about that kind of thing, it's weird if he's putting his weaknesses out there. Like, he's already thinking, I have to conceal my identity to protect people I care about. So it works okay without that scene, but if you put that scene back in, it does make him look dumb to me.
Yeah, like I said, I've never seen the extended cut, so I didn't even know that scene existed until like an hour ago. But that definitely makes it worse.
It's probably better that we don't have that. We're already starting to get into some silly, like, flying in space physics even before 2 with Superman and his ride with Lois. Because the thing where he holds her out with one hand and she doesn't just drop, I don't understand that. Like I don't know what's carrying her. Like,
it's the Superman field around him.
He's got a Superman field.
Yeah, it's that thing. It's the reason he can catch a plane.
And that might be the other most iconic flying shot, is just the two of them coming into camera.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're at the scene that always jump scares me every time I listen to the soundtrack.
Dear
because
Julie,
I forget that it's here.
Would you guys describe this movie as tonally consistent? Yeah,
I would
shockingly,
say so.
Yes, and it's such a complicated question because it's intentionally 3 different tones, but it's credible. Like, they all fit together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because it's eras of a person's life, and there's space in between them, and your your childhood and your adulthood are not going to feel exactly the same. If you want to look at it on a personal level, and then in a putting it in more kind of epic terms, like Austin was saying earlier, it's vignettes done in different styles that still
No, I
oddly
mean,
really fit together. I mean, even like the vernacular and the way people are talking is completely different between the three different types.
No, and I think in a lot of these kinds of epics, you can bounce around in tone, but keep it like overall consistent. As long as you know like exactly where all of it should fit into.
Okay, that's the one shot that looks a little bit like stock footage.
Oh, is that the Statue of Liberty shot?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's fair. Hey, Cap.
Can
you read my mind?
Can you read my mind?
Can you read my mind?
This
jump scares me every time.
This is the lowest.
When I'm listening to this.
This is the lowest. Sounds like she might be tripping on acid scene. Can you read my mind?
She might be.
Can you tell me all the things that I'm thinking of?
Can you show me the world?
So I'm gonna blow your mind, Austin, unless it turns out you already know about this. But I learned this for the first time today. They they actually recorded Margot Kidder doing the sung version of this, and they thought that's how they were gonna play the scene. It was for this one scene going to turn into a musical. Like
she was going to sing it in scene.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this, but the lines she has here are lyrics written for this music. So it's
I knew that.
In my mind, like it's an actual song that there are lyrics to, and they had her sing it, and they went, it just doesn't really fit, and so then they had her speak it, and I'm like, you needed to record it before you knew that wasn't going to work?
But do you mean like they were going to play it over it like this, or she was going to sing it in scene?
No, they were going to play it over it like this.
Oh, okay. I thought at first you meant like she was going to sing it in scene. Okay.
No, that would have been crazier, but still, the idea that your Lois Lane sings a whole song in her head in the middle of the sequence is crazy.
I mean, that would be funny. No, I always just think that her speaking it is part of why it's funny, because it's like, can you read my mind? it's very silly.
I do like that the lyrics call back to a line she has in the scene before this, where she's kind of fumbling her speech, and she is like a giddy schoolgirl, and she's got a crush on him and doesn't know how to talk to him, and she says, "Why are you?" And then you get into the lyrics here, and she says that again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're wondering why you are. That's cool.
With how much of a music guy, I would be interested to see if Gunn could try to make something like this work now.
Something else Mankiewicz said that I never thought about before is he was like, or I think so. This is the exchange, and I'm sorry for talking so much about this commentary, but it's great. Everybody should listen to it. Donner goes, "Boy, that bird's flying up pretty high, isn't it?"
That's exactly what I was just thinking, especially for an owl.
And then Mankiewicz goes, "It's a space bird." Like, they were a lot of fun. Donner has such an awesome sense of humor. And everybody in this production talks about it like that's the only thing that got them through it. Where like Donner was kind of like a kid every day at work, and he had this ridiculous amount of energy that kept everyone going, because it was like too many insanely late days over a year and a half. And everybody talks
everything
about
I've heard about Donner, like, it seems like he's one of those few guys in Hollywood that nobody has anything negative to say about. Like, it's he's just incredibly genuine and just a really nice guy.
Yeah, and everybody talks about it like he did the work of 5 different people. Okay, this was another projection shot that blew my mind when I found out that's what it was. So this is all done in one shot. I didn't know this until today. When Superman flies
they
off
project
there,
Superman flying?
yeah, so they do all this in one. So Superman flying off is pre-recorded and is a projection. So when Clark walks up here and she opens the door, there is no cut anywhere.
Well, because obviously you can tell there's no cut there. So when I was watching it today, I was like, how did they do that?
That's
like,
how they did that.
Genuinely, because it is clearly one shot.
Isn't that nuts?
That's really cool.
It's so clever.
Mm-hmm. No, that's beautiful.
Matthew Bass, $10 super chat. Thanks, man. I would argue that there's an important difference between Jor-El trying to prevent a natural disaster and Clark reversing time. It still feels like he's playing God and a cop-out to me. And that's where I still resisted a little bit. Like, I'm with you. But, like I said, I think the reason it kind of plays, it's supposed to, it's a little sloppy. Again, the main reason they did it was because they had a cool effect. But the best argument I can make for it is the only thing he's changing is her death, and it's the universe like kind of owing him one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the idea of like his Earth father saying you're here for a reason, and that being the argument against Jor-El saying you can't affect human history. If you think about it too much, it's like those aren't necessarily contradictory ideas. You know what I mean? Like Jor-El says, lead them by example. Like he is right in that Superman can't just go around preventing wars. But I think the point is supposed to be, it's a case by case thing, and if he can stop someone he cares about from dying like he couldn't with his father, and like he doesn't have to like change the whole course of human history in order to do that, like maybe that's okay. But then the problem is you wouldn't know right away what the consequences of that would be. And you're right, like we could have explored that in a sequel. And we could have
I feel like that's more so where I would want that. Because you also don't want to bog down the ending of this film too much in that. Like, I feel like that's how you build off it. But, because like you said, like you already have a discussion between Jor-El and Jonathan Kent in that scene.
Yeah, it's just when he says the way it kind of plays. I mean, you can tell I'm still a little back and forth on it. I just, in some ways, it works better than I was giving it credit for before. I like that argument is there, which I hadn't really appreciated before. But when I break it down, I can't decide how exactly I feel about that because, you have Jonathan Kent saying you're here for a reason, and then you have Jor-El saying lead them by example. Well, I mean that is a reason. It sort of plays like his reason is, like in that moment, save Lois Lane. But then the other thing is he has to be a human being in order to continue to care about humanity and not live above them. And that's where the Star Trek thing comes in for me, Austin, because then the argument becomes when is it needs of the many and when is it needs of the one. And the human thing sometimes is throw, like, logic and care out the window and save the person that you most care about. And so, like, Star Trek 3, Kirk steals a ship to go save Spock because the needs of the one for him then outweigh the needs of the many. And we're kind of with him on it. And that's kind of what this is doing. Except Superman doesn't actually have to put anybody else at risk as far as he knows in order to do it. I could also spin my wheels about this the rest of the commentary.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Is we probably could just talk about that specifically the whole time. Like I said, my issue is more so I think it's a little too silly. Beyond that, like I do think it makes sense for this movie.
I guess he can only do it when he's enraged.
Yeah, like it's very much a heightened emotion thing.
And I don't think Donner or Mankiewicz or anybody is thinking this when they put that together, Austin. But one way you could look at it is Jor-El says it's going to take you a long time to realize all the powers you have. And maybe he's still kind of unlocking them. So it's possible that up until that point, he either couldn't or didn't realize that he could go that fast.
No, that's true too. He doesn't fully know the limits of his powers yet.
I mean, I like how long it takes him before he knows he can fly. He doesn't even know he can do that before he goes to the fortress. Because he walked there.
Which is also, cool playing with Superman history.
Josh remembers the outraged thing. I almost said it like that, and then I curved the urge. He was like, enraged!
Superman is enraged. Walken should have played Superman.
Discussing topics. Somehow 3 is the only one not to give him made-up powers. Well, I don't know if it's fair to say his flying fast enough he can go back in time is exactly a made-up power. Because that's kind of just an old-fashioned science fiction notion that, like, if you can go fast enough, you'd go back in time. It's not really a new power. It's just maybe too extreme for this.
No, the only one that is maybe kind of that is when he phases into Superman.
When he phases into Superman.
At the beginning of the climax, when he jumps out jumps out of the window of the Daily Planet and then just like becomes Superman as he's flying down.
I don't know what's happening there.
My assumption watching it this time is they couldn't make it look good, him like changing into Superman while falling, so they just did that.
Yeah, well, the only
other thing, weird.
Yeah, the only other explanation I can come up with is he moves fast enough that he can look like he's changing his suit in the blink of an eye, but like, where did he put the rest of his clothes? Is he that fast? Is he fast enough to fly out of frame and come back in a different suit without our seeing it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In his commentary, Donner complains that shot doesn't look very good, but he doesn't complain that it makes no sense.
I mean, it doesn't look weird, but that's part of it also not making sense.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. Do you think?
Like I said, every now and then there's just weird choices.
We haven't talked too much about the comedy with Lex Luthor. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of the banter with him and Otis and Tessmacher is really funny, particularly the stuff in the library, just the classic stuff that everybody always quotes. My father said to me, "Get out," and like 200 is my IQ and your weight. All that stuff is really funny.
No, I think Lex is incredibly entertaining in this movie, and he's one of my favorite parts of 2.
His best stuff is in 2.
Absolutely.
Where he wants to be the ruler of Australia.
No, I just love that part too in the Daily Planet, where he's like excited to see Superman and then has to downplay it.
Wait, get him! Yeah, it's great. He's channeling his inner race stance.
Absolutely. Superman, if Zod tells you to bow down before him, you say yes.
Superman. I wish Lex wore a giant cowboy hat the whole movie.
Oh yeah, the first time I saw this, I died laughing when he rocks up in his giant cowboy hat. That's hilarious. No, I mean, I guess we can get into it, but I feel like people are really harsh on Hackman Lex Luthor at this point, and I don't think it's entirely fair. But I really like him in this
I don't
role.
think it's fair at all. I think it's fair that like it's not your cup of tea, or it's not your favorite Lex, or you're glad that we started taking that character more seriously and went the genius mogul route later. But to retroactively go, and I've seen people basically say this. No, it sucks. They should have done it like the comics. Like you're saying it should have thought to be what it was going to be later. Now, this movie does get ahead of some things, and then be like we talked about earlier with Krypton stuff, will be the way we do it from now on. But like, I don't think it's fair to go. How dare Donner and Mankiewicz not think of like 80s and 90s, like post Burn Lex Luthor? Like, come on now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Not that that's everyone that doesn't like him as Lex, but I feel like that comes up a lot.
John Kelling, I always took this Lex as being so egocentric, he surrounds himself with fools to make himself seem even more brilliant. That's a great read. Because that is one hang up I have with that, where it's like, well, he can't find anybody smarter than these people.
But I feel like it's also that thing where he's also crazy, so like people who are smart wouldn't want to be around him too. So like this is all he can get. He is a deranged maniac.
Well, and to John Kelling's point, it might not just be he surrounds himself with stupid people to feel smarter and to feel superior, but also he doesn't want to work with people close to his own intellect because then he's got to fight them on his same level. Like he's not going to be able to boss them around as easily.
No, exactly. And his kind of craziness would come out more in having to defend that constantly.
I know I said I don't like that scene that's left out in this version with Jor-El telling him about a secret identity. But on the other hand, it is kind of interesting that what Lex does here in taking advantage of his compassion is kind of what Jor-El warned him would happen in that scene. It's like Lex just gets around it because like he doesn't have to know Superman's secret identity to do this to him. So he's not threatening anybody directly close to him, but he is using his compassion as a weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. That's, of course, classic Superman stuff. Okay, here's that shot we love. Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
See, if he had thrown a S off his chest that then the suit like grew onto him, then I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, no, it's like Richard Lester came in and directed that one moment.
That one shot.
Yeah. Also, the answer to the question, can you read my mind, by the time Lester has it, is possibly.
It depends on the scene.
Yeah, if Lester had kept going, it's possible that there would have been a place where he just suddenly let Superman be telepathic.
We could have had Superman throwing a little Superman out of his hand, and we will forever be robbed of that.
RJ gets it, and nobody saw Clark jump out this window?
Oh my god, Clark Kent just killed himself.
Look, it's 1978, okay? We hadn't invented cameras yet.
Exactly.
I do love all the spinning Superman does. That's pretty great.
Good trick.
And when he...
No, it is genuine. It is genuinely like
you didn't miss a beat with that. That was wonderful. But yeah, when he spins down into the sewer, Lois and Clark, the series was obsessed with that idea.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they have him spin all the time. That's
funny.
That's how he changes clothes in that a lot. Is he'll spin around real fast, and it's not like this where it's not like that stupid shot that we don't like where his clothes just suddenly transform. I think the idea is he spins fast enough that he just like throws his outer clothes off, and then he's got a Superman costume.
It's like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's exactly that. That's my favorite Lex Luthor line in this.
That caused the death of millions of people.
Like, how do you get your is that how you get your kicks, by threatening innocent people? No, by causing the deaths of innocent people. Just the line delivery is so good.
Mm-hmm. Well, he says it in such a serious way. Like, for as much as people say, he's just like a goof, he is playing some of this really straight.
Well, your point about him being crazy, it's like, oh yeah, but he has no conscience, and he's real sinister.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically your quintessential narcissist before the world became obsessed with that word.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Also, just Reeve and Hackman have like amazing chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, they're dynamite playing off each other.
That's such a good point, because everybody is always so focused on him and Kidder, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a romance. Mm-hmm. And that chemistry is arguably more important than his being great with Hackman, but he's just as great with Hackman.
Mm-hmm. No, like that, especially that part, where they do the kryptonite, where he's hiding it. The way they play off each other in that scene, and mostly without dialogue, is so good.
Yeah, Reeves is just so generally understated. Mm-hmm. And that's why it works. It's also impressive the balance that they're finding with the comedic stuff and the serious stuff once Superman and Lex Luthor come together, because you took your main villain and made him the comic relief, and it shouldn't work. And when Superman shows up, we're seeing a more menacing side of him, but we're also not losing all the comedic stuff we had earlier. So you get this whole Otisburg thing, which is funny. And Superman ends up being the straight man through the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, that tends, like, we do that quite a bit with villains in these kinds of movies. Like, especially when we get to the Batman movies. We love our villains as comedic relief in those. I also like that this is a villain.
It's like, is that following in the tradition of this, or do we credit Bond more for that?
Both, but this is also the your big name is the villain, which is also what Batman's doing. So like, Batman is also going off of this as a mold.
66 also did that. I just gotta point that out.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's not important.
But this was also bigger than 66.
Well, yes.
No, and I like that Lex has already put his plan in motion, too, by the time Superman's here.
Yeah, that's a neat reveal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you do make a really...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you do make a really good point of the villains being used in, especially Batman movies, so much as comic relief. There's something about the way Christopher Reeve plays it that like makes the balance of that more impressive to me in this than in some other things. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like you get to Batman Returns, and we almost accidentally make Batman himself too comedic in some scenes because of that. For instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's also, kind of what we're doing in BVS, and I mean, Superman Returns is building off of this, so it's maybe not entirely fair to
Superman
throw
Returns
it at that, 'cause...
lifts 25% of its dialogue from this.
Exactly.
At least. Before we started broadcasting tonight, Austin sent me a message, and he said, Superman stands for truth, justice, and Mr. Smoker! And I want that on a t-shirt.
I mean, he especially does when she's the one that saves him.
I think Lex throwing Lex on the couch.
Oh, the way, like, the noise he makes is so good.
I think Lex's most heartless, cruel moment is when Miss Tessmacher says that her mother lives in Hackensack, and it's not just that he shakes his head. We're about to get that in a minute. It's not just that he shakes his head and looks at his watch and doesn't care. It's that he leaves, and immediately after basically telling his hinge chick that her mother is dead, he once again goes, Miss Tessmacher! It's the most heartless thing he does in the entire movie. What an asshole!
I also think the change he does when he opens the chest and it's the kryptonite, and he goes, "I told you." That's one of his best moments too.
It's almost
that's his version of Clark Kent turning into Superman. It's that change.
It kind of just feels like everything adds up with him once he is this ruthless with Superman. Where at first, like even though I like that his introduction is he kills that guy on a train, I think it's easy to kind of forget that he's murdering people because of all the comedy with him. And so you're like, really, this is our villain? And then we get back to brass tacks with it, with the kryptonite and everything, and you go, oh yeah, no, there is a menace to this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that he's so like callous and and light,
the head shake just
makes him a little scarier. I don't mean that he's really scary, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, no, he is a very effective villain.
Miss Tessmacher!
And when I agree with what you said too with the Batman thing, where I do think that they tilt the dial a little too far when we get to the Batman movies.
Yeah.
Where
especially by Forever,
they're killing people, and like that's also part of the joke.
Yeah.
Not that you can't have that. But
as much as I like Forever,
I was turned a little too much.
Doing that with both Riddler and Two-Face, like one of them needs to be straighter. In a weird way, you sort of have that better in Batman and Robin with Mr. Freeze. He's a little straighter than Poison Ivy, in a weird way.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
mean relatively.
Well, yeah, you have a better dynamic. Yeah, they're not crazy in the same way, and then you have Bane.
And even in Batman Returns, like your Penguin is more over the top than Catwoman is. She's at least got those kind of understated moments.
Well, it's because
she's a little
in Returns
behind the eyes.
Yeah, Returns and Batman and Robin, they're both crazy in different ways. While Forever, they're like crazy and aping each other.
It's very awkward. Superman, I think you can actually use your cape as a flotation device. Like it looks like the way it's billowing up, it looks like it should keep you afloat.
Well, and this is of course a reference to Superman trying to drown himself in the Superman the musical.
Oh my god. That's so good. You mean to tell me that Superman would destroy himself?
You may wonder why I want to create new land in California. It's to destroy Spain.
Has it occurred to you that at some point we're going to have to do a commentary on that?
Yeah, I think about it on like a daily basis.
Because it will be glorious. I almost want to sneak that on the wheel tonight. I should have put that in my top 15. John Kelling, Lex is deceptively scary because he's nonchalant about killing people. Yeah, exactly. And he's only taking out Superman for the crime of existing to save people. He's not even fundamentally against Superman. Yeah, that's right. And that's the big difference between him and a more modern, traditional Lex Luthor, is we don't have all that psychological baggage yet. Your comic book Luthor, before he's even got Lex in his name, I typically hates Superman because he's got that vanity thing. Maybe that's where this comes from, Austin. Where he's mad because he lost his hair, which is very silly. But they had that whole thing.
And then he was vain enough to keep wearing wigs.
But yeah, your modern Lex is jealous of Superman because he's so good and has all of that power, and Lex doesn't like that anybody's capable of doing that, and he doesn't like that he's beloved and isn't, from here.
Mm-hmm. Well, because your modern Lex Luthor is like built with the dichotomy of the two like in mind, right? Where we're building them as this duo in a way that I don't think this is, but it still reaches, where Superman is doing this because he can, and Lex Luthor is also doing this because he can.
That's a great point, yeah. And he's a foil for Superman in that he wants all the fame and glory that Superman doesn't care about. Mm-hmm. And that he is, as ruthless and careless. He doesn't care about people as much as Superman does. Mm-hmm. And so he isn't just the random generic villain that sometimes people paint him out to be. This is a great shot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When he comes out from the shadow.
Also, I never had this thought until just now. That shot of him lifting the missile out, do you think Avengers was specifically homaging that scene?
I never had that thought. Maybe so.
Because it was like almost the exact same shot.
Well, they watched it before they made that movie, so like it's possible.
Exactly.
And maybe this is a silly kind of reaching kind of read. I just had this thought. But Superman is like the hero that kids always fantasize about, where you want to be able to put on the costume and the cape and fly around and save people. And he is obviously not at all childish himself, but mm-hmm. like kids want to be him. And then Lex Luthor, by contrast, is a spoiled child.
Mm-hmm. To the point he's yelling for his mom.
Yeah. I didn't have that thought until we were looking at that again, but like that face he makes, like he's a friggin' child.
Yeah, he wants his toy. Absolutely.
No, clearly this should be the Superman game, where sometimes you're Superman flying around saving people with a giant catastrophe, and sometimes you're Lois just dodging telephone poles.
I mean, if we're gonna go full Insomniac, there probably would be like boring sections where you're driving around as Lois.
That's still better than creeping around like Mary Jane.
Here's better. 40 minutes of gameplay where you take pictures as Jimmy Olsen. I
will say Jimmy doesn't get a lot of screen time.
He doesn't. I feel like he's in here enough for a first movie where there's kind of no room to put him in more, but like he's in it enough that you at least know who he is.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's not in this a ton.
More than anybody else, he feels like that obligatory supporting character that you're supposed to know already because you've seen Superman things is a major part of the supporting cast. But if you're introduced to Superman through this, you might forget he's even there.
No, exactly. He's kind of like Bucky in First Avenger.
Yeah, except even more so.
Yeah, even more so, I agree.
Bucky gets lines of dialogue.
Jimmy gets lines of dialogue.
He gets line of dialogue.
Sugar.
I think he talks slightly more than Bob the Goon.
Well, and this is probably still the most Jimmy has ever done in any of these films, right?
That's probably true.
Until the new one, I assume. I assume Jimmy will get a lot more to do.
He'll
we'll
get
see.
3 lines in James Gunn Superman.
He'll be like, "Oh, gee, Chief," and then he'll get shot.
So the helicopter catch is classic and quintessential, and then obviously Superman getting on the tracks is that way, because that goes back to Fleischer.
Yeah.
And that's one of those
right
shots
out of a cartoon, and it looks really cool.
I was going to say, that's one of the shots where I'm like, I don't know how they made it look that credible.
I know, right? Like, you would think that because it's right out of a cartoon, you wouldn't believe it.
It's really cool. And I don't want to get too into technical things, but we haven't talked at all about model work and stuff, but like it's all really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me go,
if I was... amazing how much they were able to accomplish.
Yeah, it makes me go, if I was ever going to like make a movie, like make a big action movie and somehow get the funding to do something on a big scale, I'd want to go back to the old way it was done and not do anything in a computer at all and just see what I can get away with.
But I'm trying to remember too, I think the big like classic Bond set designer is the guy who does some of these sets, so that's probably also some of that as well, like with Lex's set and the Fortress of Solitude. Like, just so much credibility put into who they brought in to make this.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but if memory serves, I think that's the guy that the dedication is for at the beginning. I think it was the set designer that died right after.
Oh, okay. Oh, geez, hey, look, Superman, you put me in the middle of an earthquake. Hey, Dewey was there for a bit. He got saved.
He complains about that at the end. I always thought it'd be funny if Superman went back in time and he just like accidentally also rescued Jimmy, where like Jimmy also dies when Lois dies, but that's not why he goes back. But that's not what happens.
Well, it should be the consequences that Jimmy dies, and then he's like, he had 6 lines. It's okay. Now, he's at least mentioning Jimmy here and there. Like, oh, I love working here. I get to meet Jimmy. It's great.
Speaking of stuff that would scare kids, like, we literally buried Lois Lane alive in this, like, wholesome, hopeful Superman movie. It's cool how much of an edge this thing has.
Mm-hmm. No, and the scene where she dies is horrifying. That's another show-off scene, is when he flips around.
Yes! It's like, you guys have really figured out how to do this now.
We get it, Donner. You're cool.
Okay, good job. Well done.
What, do you want, a cookie or
another
something?
Cookie? That's what I was going to say.
Mr. Smuggler! My cookie! I have 2 cookies, Superman. Double trouble.
Seems like every Superman movie has to have a scene like this where there's and I mean of the original 4, where there's a big, like, natural catastrophe toward the end and Superman's going around fixing stuff, and it never looks anything like as good again, especially because you start introducing, like, telekinesis beams and crap, where he's able to, like, just use his finger to put everything back together.
He's got dotted blue line vision that can rebuild walls. Yeah, it's never quite as good. But I like that the climax of this film is just everything going wrong all at once.
Yeah.
And Superman having to put out a billion fires. And that night, I like Superman saving people over him like fighting people.
Yeah.
Not that you can't have Superman fighting people, but like this to me just screams much more like classic Superman. Like even when he's fighting, Brainiac or whoever, like I still want this aspect.
Well, again, this is what makes him feel like a whole person. Where you get into the conflict of the savior versus the man, where he's been going around, just like you said, putting out fires, and the last thing on his mind was Lois, and that gets into this like really sad paradox, which I've talked about a lot with the genre, with the idea of the superhero who has to be selfless, and in doing that, sometimes people that he cares about ends up getting hurt, and so it winds back around and doesn't feel as selfless. It's weird, because like she's gonna get upset with him at the end for not being around when she needs him, and it's like, but he's doing the selfless thing. He's taking care of everybody else, not putting his own friends and family in front of anyone, and it's just like this really messed up paradox.
Also, are we like weirdly subverting what will then become the trend of the villain kidnapping the girlfriend?
Yeah.
Except, she gets killed in the middle of his plan, but it has nothing really to do with her.
That's a fantastic point. Yeah, it's nice that...
Like I said, this movie is weirdly subversive for also being one of the first big things that sets all the rules, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have the formula yet. But also, like, kidnapping the girlfriend in the third act is an action movie formula, so they easily could have gone to that. Too. So
especially because there's Bond in this too.
Well,
and that's a Bond.
And Lois gets kidnapped all the time and stuff before this. So you do have to credit them for not doing that in this.
Just finding a creative way to put her in danger without it being...
I mean, what other tropes, Austin, can we think of that become part of the formula that we're not to yet, and that this also didn't establish, right? Like, the girlfriend doesn't get kidnapped. You don't have a villain death. You've only got one villain. So, like, we haven't done that. We haven't done that chestnut yet.
No, because that'll be set by 2.
I think the main thing that it establishes that a lot of things can't get away from because they think they have to have it when sometimes they don't is origin.
No, that's true.
I mean, part of the reason they make 2 movies at the same time is they feel like they have to get the origin out, and they really want to be able to tell another story after that. And it turns out that for this, the instinct was correct, but that's not always right. On the other hand, it also kind of just depends on how well you told that story, right? Like, the case could be made that every first superhero movie could be an origin and be great. The case could be made. Now, there are some superheroes that I don't think have super compelling origin stories, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't make their thin 2-second origin into a compelling story. But it is hard not
I don't
to
think
follow
the FF do
with all of them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't think the FF has a super compelling origin to be a film, but we can also do it a lot better than we have.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, absolutely, you can make any of them work, really.
I think another reason that I and a lot of people tend to resist the spinning the Earth back thing is it's just such a Deus Ex Machina that you go, well, okay, if he can do that, then anytime things don't go in his favor, he can just turn time back.
No, that is true.
Now, this is a very post Back to the Future idea. that I'm about to throw out, Austin. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, I wouldn't have expected Donner or anybody to think of this. But what if, hear me out, Superman goes back in time, forget whether he's actually physically spinning the Earth or whatever. He goes back in time, and there are now momentarily two Supermans, and each
Mm-hmm.
of them grabs a different missile.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done that. But then I guess the
You
question is,
absolutely.
what would get one of them, the other one, written out finally? Would you just end up perpetually having two Supermans from then on?
The Superman that didn't go back in time would be like, you can't do that, and then they would fight each other, and then our Superman would kill the other Superman.
Oh. You know, I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say you would contrive some way, for them to get electrocuted and have lightning, but you'd have electric powers, and then you'd have Superman Red and Superman Blue.
No, Lex Luthor would jump out of nowhere and be like, "Surprise, Superman!" and then shoot him with a kryptonite bullet, and then that Superman would die, and then the other Superman would be like, "Two Supermen, Lex."
Oh, talk about your Flash thing.
Oh yeah, I just said to Cap earlier today that this climax should be what we're looking at when making a Flash movie. Like, just there's 8,000 things going wrong in different areas, and the Flash has to deal with all of them. And I don't know. I don't know why that's not the type of thing we were thinking of. But we also didn't really make a Flash movie,
I also
so.
think that that could be a really great sequel bait opportunity for opening up the Speed Force.
Hmm.
So what you do is your third act is whatever your catastrophe is, or Flash is, like you said, speeding around like crazy, putting out all these different fires, and in doing so, he goes so fast he accidentally discovers the Speed Force.
Yeah, and I wasn't even thinking about the time travel aspect, but you also have that. Like,
Yeah,
it is a very Flash-like climax.
you know, I made a Bulk and Skull joke earlier, but it never occurred to me that Power Rangers might have actually been kind of looking at this with those characters, because
Hmm.
I, especially early on, they do a constant joke in that where Skull is repeating everything Bulk says.
Hmm. Yeah, it could be.
I just had that thought.
Hmm.
I always love Superman's like matter of fact morality speeches,
Yeah.
which is also a '60s Batman thing, but like it's tongue in cheek and silly in that, and in this it just feels endearing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's all just a change of tone. Here's the ending of every Superman movie.
Yeah, and maybe the greatest fourth wall break in anything.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess it technically is a fourth wall break. I never think about it like that, but I guess technically it is.
Yeah, because he's looking at you. You know, he's
Hmm.
flying off, and he's like, "Yeah, and I know you're there," and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. I don't need to overthink that. It's just classy. I don't know. You know
Oh,
what
he's
it feels
Superman.
like?
He's smiling. Yeah.
I'm gonna, and again, importantly, looking directly at the audience. Here's another reach idea, Austin.
Hmm.
The movie is bookended in congratulating itself for pulling this off. Because at the
So you
start,
think that's like the bookend to the
the this is not a
in like
fantasy thing.
1930? Yeah.
No, I think it's a
Oh,
book
okay. So
into
the
this is not a
okay.
fantasy, and then
Yeah.
you get. I mean, yeah, you could maybe have a read with the '30s thing too, but I was thinking like it opens up saying this is not a fantasy, and then it spends the whole movie building credibility and making you buy its reality, and then you get to the end of the movie and we believe a man can fly all the way to friggin' space. Like we're buying that he's flying outside of the Earth in space, and then he basically winks at the audience, not saying this is all a joke, but yes, I'm really doing this. We pulled it off.
Hmm.
It's not a fantasy. That's what that's doing.
Yeah. Just I am Superman.
Nah, 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 nah.
Na, 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 Superman. Exactly.
John Kellen, would you rather the Superman team up with 66 Batman or 89 Batman? I have a cop out answer for that. I've thought about this. It depends on
Oh,
the medium. So in film, as weird as it would be combining them because one is set firmly in the 70s and one is not, it'd be Keaton and Reeves. But in comics, I'd love to see that crossover with 66.
so I feel like because we're doing the Reeves Superman and the 89 Batman, those new books, and like we're doing them constantly together. I feel like at some point we're gonna do a crossover with that,
Oh,
right?
I never even thought about that. But and all of that happens because of the success of the 66 comics. So just go all the way, merge all three of them. Have 66 and 89 there. And
Don't even
Wonder Woman
explain it. They just
77.
exist in the same world.
Yeah.
Well, again, I was thinking that too. Like, you could just do a Justice League off of that. Like a
Oh, sure. Why not? I think it might be more entertaining than the 89 comics, honestly, because I don't like them.
Mhm. No, and I like the 89 one more than you do, but like at the same time, like it's not really like my bag. Like I'm not really. It's not something I need. But no, like you could do that. I don't know who the rest of the Justice League would be, but
Well, you could do 1990 Flash.
yep,
You could do TV Flash.
yeah. You can do Steel. You can do
Movie Steel? Oh
yeah.
no.
You can do Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern.
Well, this sounded like a great idea until 30 seconds ago.
You can do Supergirl and Catwoman, but
Yeah,
not but like Halle Berry
Halle Berry
Catwoman.
Catwoman with Super.
Yeah.
That's not even a Justice League character.
No, but we need to fill the Steam gap. We have no women.
Where are the women?
And you can have Wonder Woman from the unmade Joss Whedon script.
Austin, what have you done to my Superman commentary?
But it has to do with Superman.
What
He's
did
there
you do?
too.
He's there too. It's this version.
Exactly, and he's the leader, and he's like, I love Pink, Halle Berry, Catwoman.
No, I can't unsee that now. Why'd you have to? No.
It's
The
beautiful.
last thing on Earth I want to see is Halle Berry Catwoman asking Superman what color underwear she's wearing.
Oh, don't be
Ugh.
racist.
That's not racist. What have you done to my Superman commentary?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening anymore. Anyways, Superman, this is a wonderful movie.
It is still really sad that the Donner cut couldn't, for Superman 2, couldn't somehow have a different ending that would fit with this movie. Like, I really hate that you can't watch them together.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it can't be like a Snyder cut situation where at the end of the day, like it is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is still compromised.
I'll
I
never
still haven't seen the
understand.
Donner cut. I still need to get to it.
Yeah, well, that may be an exception we'll want to make where we do both versions for this show because they're so different.
Hmm.
But I just see that as a cool curiosity and an excuse to use all the footage that they never put anywhere than an experience on its own. And you got a lot of people that will only watch the Donner cut, and I don't understand that because
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
it just doesn't hold together with this. So like you have to imagine this ended differently. But it would be cool. The other way you could do it is, I mean, you'd still have to shoot new stuff, which is impossible. But the other thing that would be cool if it was possible would be to redo the ending of 1 and then still have the spin the time back for 2. Do you know, Austin, the reason that time is spun back in Donner's version of 2?
I used to, but it's been so long I don't remember offhand.
It's the way Lois loses her memory instead of the magic gas.
Mm-hmm.
That's the.
Well, I knew that. I just wasn't sure
okay.
if there was like another reason for it.
No, it's just
because doesn't he also reset it so that the villains go like they never got out of the Phantom Zone?
Yeah, he erases the entire movie, and it's better here. Yeah, it's better here because most of the movie still happens.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like a giant waste of time at the end. That is another thing that feels, in a way, real 70s to me. Just this, and maybe not 70s specifically, but just very pre-modern age where we have to always reset status quo back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Did you see the card at the end for next year's
Superman 2 next year? They should have done the Back to the Future 2 post-credits scene.
And they could have. They had enough footage.
Exactly. Oh my god, Zod is back in 1883. That's heavy, Lois.
You show a trailer at the end of this movie, and it opens with Terrence Stamp's face and a narrator that says, "Remember this face?"
He's back.
Because you haven't seen him in 2.5 hours. Okay, let's go ahead. As always, everybody knows the drill. We're going to get into ratings. We're going to do our tweet length reviews from the patrons, and we'll see if we got any new ones. Austin, would you read the... You're probably going to read more than I am. Would you read the tweet length reviews on Discord for me? And while he's doing that, once again, just quick plug for Patreon. $5 tier on Patreon lets you put in a tweet length review. $10 tier lets you become a Superhero Rewind producer. Get your name read at the end of the show, and you get to help us pick movies sometimes. We do things in the Discord. We haven't had a meeting in a while. We'll do that soon. But anyway, let's get into the tweet length reviews. How many are on Discord?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
Sweet.
Quite a few.
Let's get rolling here.
So Chewbacca's Lover, still the best Superman movie. Still the best Superman movie with the best Superman. The one thing that is sort of strange to me is Lex Luthor. It's not bad, but it's very different to what I'm used to. I always forget he's not a rich guy like in the comics. I give this movie a superhero. Matt Pat. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, like once again, not like in the comics, but he wasn't at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That's Marv Wolfman that comes up with that, and then obviously it's between his and Burns' run.
I forgot about that. It's also important to note that this does deviate from what the comics usually did in that he's not exactly a mad scientist.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's true too. I mean, I guess he's science-y, but they're not like focusing on it in like a Frankenstein kind of way. Like
he's not wearing a white lab coat. He's not in
like beakers.
Not in a laboratory. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to their credit, by Superman 4, he does clone Superman, which is a thing we cannot stop doing with Lex Luthor.
And he's got his best henchman, Ducky Luthor. It's beautiful.
Anyway.
MapHat68. The first half of Superman the movie is fantastic, with great performance and an iconic score. However, the second half gives way to goofiness and pacing issues. Nevertheless, there's a reason why this is still considered a classic. Rating, superhero. Serial When Pigs Fly. A great film that actually understands what makes the Man of Steel the icon that he is. It is probably my favorite joke in a superhero movie, Otisburg and Legend. From Doolittle. Sorry, go ahead.
Great.
It's great. Yeah.
Did you ever notice that in the Arkham games there's an Otisburg?
There is an Otisburg, and I think that starts in Arkham City, right?
I think it does. Yeah, that's so great.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gotham instead of Metropolis. Doesn't make any sense. I don't care. It's great. It's great that that's there.
Well, it's just a reference. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great reference.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still stand by that. There was talks of them doing a Superman game, even if that's not ultimately what they did. Because there's also like a ton of Superman references in Arkham Knight, and like every single one of those games kind of telegraphs what their next game is, and then they made Suicide Squad. But anyways, Doolittle, he says, great movie. I love Superman 78. The last time I watched it was when they re-released the movie in theaters back in 2023. Oh, I didn't realize it was re-released that recently. I should have seen it.
I didn't either.
That was an unrepeatable experience, and I'll treasure that theater-going experience. It gets a superhero. Yeah, I bet that was awesome. I would have loved to have seen it like that. From Super Billy, he says, yet to be surpassed, this film is the gold standard of superhero films, perfectly cast, sublimely written and directed, showcases a genuine love for and understanding of the material, strikes the perfect balance tonally, and has quite possibly the best score ever conceived. Despite the great strides the genre has made since its release, no other superhero film has been able to match the grand, epic grandeur of Superman the movie, rating Legend.
That music is once again going to be stuck in my head for the next month.
I was driving today, and I had like the window down because it's finally nice here, and like the wind blasting in my face, and I started blasting that theme, and it was the most awesome thing ever, and I felt like a total dork.
Well, and I always like to talk about how John Williams does these really cool themes where there's two parts to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like somehow he comes up with two equally iconic melodies that go together to make one theme. And he does it in Star Wars, he does it with Superman, and I mean, like, that's another place where I'm just like, okay, you're showing off. Because, like, it could have just been dun da 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 da, but then you also got da 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 da. How's that not two different songs?
That is just really fun to be like, da, 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 Superman!
Superman! Exactly.
Yeah, do you have any on the Patreon side?
Just one. Daniel Davis put in a review and says, even 40 plus years later, Superman the movie still packs a powerful punch. Nice alliteration. Richard Donner's decision to structure the film in a manner similar to old-timey style epic works wonders. Yes, there are creaky elements, and we can argue all day about how successful the climax actually is. We did. We argued about it all day. But when you get right down to it, this is still top-notch, wonderful entertainment with a legendary Christopher Reeve performance at its center and another knockout score from John Williams. A hearty legend. And now we get to Austin's rating. Austin, do you agree that this movie is a hearty legend?
Yes, I will give it a legend. I think this movie is still, like everyone said there, like top of its genre. I think it's endlessly entertaining. The fact that I was able to come into the, as an adult, only a few years ago, and it's immediately become a movie I go back to like pretty often. And it's just such a feel-good movie.
That's
like,
such
it's
a good
such
point
an easy movie
to be that affected by it as an adult. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you didn't have to be there. Like it's that good. And I think it maybe it takes you back to childhood, even if you didn't have it in your childhood. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's Superman. Like, I feel like just every choice, for the most part, is really sells that. You know what I mean? Like, even I didn't mention this earlier, but for the costume, one of the things I really appreciate is that Christopher Reeve is very clearly, like a big, strong, like bulked up guy for this. But his costume is made in a way where it's not like show-offy about it, which is something I actually really like about the new one. Like, it's not the like the padded muscles where we're showing off all of that. Because there's just something I like about Superman, in that he doesn't need to show that off. Like, it adds a almost level of kindness and like approachability to the character.
Yeah, and like he has a chiseled physique because he's supposed to look like a.
Because he is Superman.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
like,
he's got to be an icon. He's got to look kind of Greek god-ish, but he's not like a muscle-bound.
mhm. Well, it's not that it's got to be like in your face about it.
I guess the
Like,
point I'm
it's
making
almost
is
kind of hidden.
his super strength comes from the sun. He doesn't have to look like he works out 90 hours a day.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. But like, he is clearly, ripped.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
And it's
like, I prefer 80s ripped Superman to 90s ripped Superman.
well, I mean, you can say that about just comics in
Every
general, like anything.
yeah, that's also fair. No, originally that suit was supposed to be padded.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you know that. It was supposed to be a muscle
I
suit.
did know that because I think they didn't think he was going to get big enough.
Well, actually, what happened was Christopher Reeve. It was Christopher Reeve's idea to bulk up. He was like, "No, I'm not gonna wear a muscle suit. I'm just gonna get big." And then his personal trainer was David Prowse. Yeah, the guy who played Darth Vader, who apparently wanted to test for this movie and wasn't allowed to.
I wish we had video of him saying all the Superman lines, like the Darth Vader clips. That'd be beautiful.
Yeah, we didn't talk about some of that background stuff, and we don't have to get super into it. But one thing I did want to mention, just because I think it's funny, is one. And I mentioned this to you earlier. One of the actors that was not just considered, but apparently the role was offered to. I found this out later. I didn't tell you about that part, Austin. Was James Caan.
Mm-hmm.
I can't begin to see James Caan in a Superman costume, and neither could he, because his quote was, "Yeah, I'd never put that on." And I'm like, well, you shouldn't, because you don't look like Superman or any action hero of any kind. Like, James Caan is the guy who played the writer for Misery. like Superman? He would have been an okay Lex Luthor.
Kathy Bates maybe could have been Lex Luthor in that world.
I'm just imagining Kathy Bates screaming Miss Tessmacher, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Austin, I'm as much as I'm still back and forth and confused story-wise about some of the stuff with the climax with spinning the Earth back. I'm not gonna let it hold me back this time. It's definitely a legend.
It's not the worst film ever made anymore.
No, it's not. It's not. It's risen above that. I've seen the light again, Austin. I've come back from the dark side. I was evil Green Ranger for a little while, but I've given up the sword of darkness, and I'm back on the side of light again.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and I mean, this movie obviously has its faults, but I also think that's part of why it's so good. Like, it's good, despite that. Some of that stuff also makes it like a little more interesting.
Yeah. Well, and just how did it nail it so hard as the pioneering film?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Just the power of Richard Donner, man. That man's crazy.
How did it take so long before we got any decent superhero movies outside of this franchise?
That's what I've always said. Like, I always forget that it takes like a decade to get Batman.
Yeah, it's a decade before you get Batman, and then through the 90s, we've talked about this a lot recently because we've done so many of them, but through the 90s, the only stuff we attempted was pulp and proto-superhero things, and Batman.
Mm-hmm. No, if Superman the movie were made now, Batman would be like greenlit the next day.
And 50 other characters no one cares about.
Like when Barbie was really profitable, so suddenly it was like every toy ever is getting a movie now. Magic 8 Ball, the movie.
I think that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, it was one that was announced.
Anyway, well, that is Superman. Let's go ahead and figure out where we're ranking. Austin, have you already put yours in?
Yes, I put it in during the credits, so you might have to refresh if you already have it.
No, I see it.
Okay, the last few times I keep forgetting it, and then
oh, that's okay.
Realize during.
So Austin has put Superman as his number 4 movie. So he's got RoboCop, The Suicide Squad, and Mask of Zorro ahead of it.
Yeah, and for a second I contemplated putting it over Zorro, and I was like, I know that's not what my list was for the top 100, but I was like, in this moment, do I want to put Superman over it? And I'm like, I think for now I'll put it under, but it could move.
Yeah, I had the exact same dilemma, Austin, and I ultimately did the unthinkable, and I actually ended up moving Zorro around.
Oh, okay.
I put it in a different spot than I had it. So this is what it looks like now. It used to be at my number 2 spot, and I now have.
Oh, okay.
I now have Superman at number 3 and RoboCop and X2 still over it.
That's really funny that I was debating between 3 and 4, and that's about where you were too.
That's exactly where I was.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. Okay, well,
I mean, both great movies either way. Like,
yeah, it kind of ends up just coming down to writing. In trying to decide
what I'm in the mood for.
Which of those should go first? Like, gun to my head, does Mask of Zorro have a better script than Superman? Like, maybe by like a smidge. It's hard to say. I don't know. Those are difficult things to compare, but they're also both really well made. Like, they're doing different things, but the action in Mask of Zorro,
like I said, it's just
really
what
superior.
am I in the mood for?
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like they can go back and forth just depending on that. Like, oh, I'm more in an adventure mood. Like, I'm more like I prefer Zorro. I'm more in like, traditional superhero mood, like Superman. Really could go either way.
I could even see myself dropping X2 down a little bit at some point and having Superman second. Like, it's tough. It's tough to decide. John Kelling, a Magic 8 Ball movie easily lends itself to the horror genre, like Final Destination, with layers of severity depending on your question and the answer. Yeah, you make it like a Ouija board.
Well, I would think the horror should just be it keeps saying "try again," where it's like, "Oh, your friend's gonna die." It's like, "Oh, is this the way to get them out?" Please try again.
If I were titling that as a horror movie, it's not the Magic 8 Ball movie. It's called Outlook Not So Good. That sounds like a good horror movie title.
It is a good horror movie title.
Yeah, that's. The
I would call it "Please Try Again," and then
or "Try Again Later." Try again later.
Try again later. And then the big part of the climax is that they'll shake it and they'll look and they've knocked the die off its hinges and they just get the corner. So it's like they're not even getting words anymore. That's the big scary ending.
That's the teaser trailer. Is just like the guy keeps flipping it and you never see what the actual words are, and then at the very end of the teaser he finally flips it and it's Outlook Not So Good, coming soon to a theater near you.
And it's like the Batman shot where like the camera flips over, like on that T shot with the Riddler.
Why are we talking about this right now?
I don't know. Okay. I blame everyone else.
Guys, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and watching live. I appreciate super chats from you guys that did that. And now we're going to spin the wheel to find out what we're watching for next week. And again, we took each of our top 15 movies from our top 100 list, minus movies that we've done recently, or that we've already done for the commentary project, of which there were like 4 or 5.
Yeah, well, and for a second I was like, I guess there's also stuff that is too recent, but then I realized, oh no, technically Guardians 3
And the
is
Batman.
eligible as of this year.
The Batman's eligible, and actually, you and I have done a
Hmm.
commentary on that before, but it wasn't technically for this project. So I went ahead
Hmm.
and added it because we do have to do that eventually.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Um, but yes, there's nothing on here that's too recent. Uh, should I read them down or just spin it?
It's up to you.
So the possibilities are the Batman, Doctor Mordred, because that was really high on Austin's list. Uh, all three Guardians movies. So we could end up doing one of those out of order. I went ahead and put them all on the wheel because there's precedent.
Oh, cool.
We've done stuff out of order. So I figured, yeah, it's fine. Um, let's see, Kick-Ass, Iron Man, Darkman, Mask of the Phantasm, Spider-Man Homecoming, Iron Man 3, Batman Begins, Winter Soldier, Dark Knight, Superman 2. It would be amusing if that came up. Logan, Batman Forever, and The Mask. So all of these worthwhile movies that will be fun if they show up.
Hmm.
All
Is there
right.
anything that you're like game for where you're like, this is what I'm rooting on?
Wow. Yeah, because a lot of it is just heavy hitters where I'm like, oh God, I gotta do my homework again. You know? I wouldn't mind Iron Man coming up. I've been kind of in the mood to go back to that. I guess you have
Yeah,
Iron
that
Man
would be a good
and Iron
one.
Man 3, so we could end up doing that out of order too. Sorry, what did you say?
No, I just said Iron Man's one that I'd be really excited to do. Kick-Ass is one as well. But I'm game to do any of those. They all
Dark
sound good.
Darkman would make me
Hmm.
happy.
Yep.
And you know me, I'm always excited about the mask. All right, here we go. It is
Big money, no
spinning,
whammy.
and it is. Oh my God, I can't even believe it.
Uh-oh.
I can't
What
even
is it?
believe it. It's Doctor Mordred.
Yes!
I can't even believe that happened.
Only I
Wow!
care. That's beautiful. I thought you were gonna say it's Superman
It's
too.
beautiful for you, but what's nuts is it. We had all these heavy hitters. It dodged all of them and went to a movie that no one is going to care about.
Oh, that's
That's just
wonderful.
going to piss everyone off, and it's not my fault.
No, everybody saw the wheel spun. It landed on Dr.
Austin
Mordred.
like accidentally sabotaged the wheel. The Tyler's hands. I have no idea what that is.
Well, you're in for a treat, son.
Explain
It is
Doctor Mordred
beautiful.
real briefly, Austin.
Dr. Mordred is a B movie that was supposed to be a Doctor Strange film, but then they couldn't get the rights. And it's made by the director of Ginger Dead Man and Evil Bong.
John
And it
Kelly
is
outlook
beautiful.
not so good. I can't
Yeah, and it stars.
even believe that. Should we spin it again? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and it stars Jeffrey Combs as Dr. Mordred. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's what we have. I can't even believe that. Well, there's a part of me that's glad that happened because we've got all these obscure movies we got to get out of the way at some point.
Mhm.
And I like Doctor Mordred. That's a fun movie. But doing two big heavy hitters back to back, like the more of those you get up front, the more obscure it's going to be later on. So
Mhm.
it's good to get some of the weird ones out of the way.
No, that result makes me believe in magic in a young girl's heart. That is beautiful. I'm very happy with Dr. Mordred.
Oh my god, we were talking today about how crazy it would be if that came up, and it did. It's nuts.
Well, because you were so like hardcore, like, oh, we're gonna have another heavy hitter next time.
People are
It's
gonna
like,
be so
yeah.
excited. It's gonna be a major movie. We're gonna next time it will be another major motion picture.
Mhm.
And then not so my outlook not so good. Well, once again, thanks everybody for being here. I've got to read all the names of the producers now, because that's one of the perks that you get for the end of the show. And thanks to all of our patrons, but especially these folks, including Darren Dooley, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Elliot Slater, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Joe Gira, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, Abic Stark, Adam March, Checkers, The Inventor, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, Kareem Roberts, Kate Blaze, MattBat68, Matthew Brody, and Michael Martin. I hope you guys had a great time. We certainly did. Austin, that was I think we covered a lot of ground in that commentary. I kept feeling like I needed to make notes about what I wanted to say and what I said already, because we just kept passing things like, I didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 billion things you can talk about. We didn't even mention that scene that everyone talks about where Reeves takes the glasses off and like switches personas and then switches back.
Oh yeah, and grows 3 inches before your eyes. It's amazing.
No, anytime anybody makes fun of the Clark Kent Superman thing, you show them that scene.
Yeah, that's another one of those movies where we could do 2 commentaries back to back, and the second commentary could be completely different.
No, exactly.
All right,
exactly.
Well,
I mean, there's just so much to talk about.
We appreciate you guys. We'll be back again next week with lots more stuff here on Geekvolution. Austin, thanks for your time and your thoughts as always, buddy.
Yeah, next time there will be Dr. Mordred.
Next time, another major motion picture.
Good
night, everybody.
See you, folks.